Unstoppable. Chapter 1. Alexia Davenport, Tech Genius. Lexi Davenport pushed through the building's glass doors, the storm outside roaring in her wake. The lobby gleamed sleek, expensive, polished to perfection. Every surface whispered of money and power. A vast reception desk dominated one side. On the other, rows of designer chairs promised comfort, but not warmth. She shook off her jacket, trying to reclaim some resemblance of professionalism, then dragged her fingers through unruly crimson curls before approaching the receptionist. The woman behind the desk gave her a once-over, the kind that felt like a slow insult, and asked flatly, "Can I help you?" Lexi forced a polite smile and slid her business card across the counter. Lexi Davenport for Miles Jonas. The receptionist glanced at the card like it might stain her manicure, tapped something on her keyboard, and jerked her chin toward the elevators. 6th floor. Lexi nodded, exhaling as she walked to the lift. She pressed the button and watched the glowing numbers descend toward her 5, 4, 3. She straightened her shoulders as the doors slid open. Inside, silence pressed around her. She replayed the purpose of her visit, every reason she'd nearly canceled this meeting. Miles Jonas, two-time Nobel Prize nominee and her current investor, had spotted her at the Tech Summit 2 years ago and insisted her work had potential. Game-changing, he'd called it. She had been skeptical, but after digging through his history and finding no skeletons worth fearing, she accepted his offer. Now he wanted expansion in Asian markets. He'd said it would be in her best interest. Lexi wasn't convinced. She'd built her company from caffeine, sleepless nights, and code. Expanding meant losing control. The elevator chimed at the 6th floor. She stepped into the quiet hallway and found his office. Miss Davenport, his secretary, greeted her warmly. "He's expecting you." Lexi nodded, knocked once, and entered. Miles stood at the window, phone in hand, the city stretching beneath him like a chessboard. He gestured for her to sit and wrapped up his call before turning with a grin. "Alexia, good to see you." He always used her full name, no matter how many times she asked him not to. "Miles," she said evenly. "What am I doing here?" "My message was answer enough." He chuckled and offered coffee. She declined. "Straight to business. That's why I like you, Alexia. My time equals money. Sitting here equals wastage." Okay. He raised his hands in mock surrender and slid a folder across the desk. "Just look at the numbers before you say no. If you're still against it, I'll drop it. You could have emailed me this. Maybe, but you need to get out of that server room sometimes." He leaned forward, smiling. "Besides, I wanted to see you." Lexi arched a brow but said nothing. "There's a private consortium tomorrow night," he added, almost casually. "Come with me. It'll be good PR." Before she could answer, his phone rang again. "I'll send the car at 7, he said, already half on the next call. Lexi exhaled, shaking her head. She picked up the folder, slung her bag over her shoulder, and left without another word. Chapter 2. Sometimes a slap is necessary. The next evening, Lexi stared at her reflection in the mirror, a stranger looking back. She didn't do parties. She didn't do people. And she certainly didn't do midnight blue silk that hugged her curves like it knew her secrets. Still, here she was, adjusting the dress and trying to tame her fiery curls into something resembling control. She pinned them back, applied a whisper of red gloss, and dabbed on perfume, the final armor before battle. Miles had already called, impatient. She grabbed her clutch and stepped into the night, heels clicking against the pavement like a metronome. The chauffeur opened the car door. Inside waited Miles and his wife, Gloria, pristine, poised, polite. Lexi greeted them both, then let the hum of the city fill the silence as they drove. At the venue, the chill of winter nipped at her legs. Inside, jazz swayed through the air, low and rich. Crystal chandeliers spilled gold light over velvet and champagne. Lexi scanned the room, investors, politicians, familiar faces she'd rather see through a screen. She accepted a glass of wine from a passing server and followed Miles and Gloria to their table. "Frank," Miles greeted a tall man approaching them. "You know my wife, and this is my business partner, Miss Davenport." Lexi shook the man's hand, his cologne heavy, his smile rehearsed. Miles and Frank drifted away in conversation, leaving her with Gloria. They exchanged polite words, travel, art, the usual filler, before Lexi excused herself to the ladies' room. Inside, silence. She exhaled and stared at her reflection, grounding herself. Her phone buzzed in her clutch. "Mom? Nothing's wrong, sweetheart," her mother said warmly. "I just miss you. I'll be in the city next week, maybe coffee." Lexi's expression softened. "Always. Text me when you're here, I'll pick you up. Good girl. Enjoy your evening." When the call ended, Lexi smiled faintly, then steeled herself again and left. Back at the table, she noticed someone new standing beside Miles, a woman with her back turned. Platinum hair spilled down her back, shimmering under the light. The black dress she wore fit her like a secret. Miles looked up. Lexi. Come meet someone." The woman turned, and the world tilted. She was all elegance and danger wrapped in grace. Pale skin, soft lips tinted in red, eyes the color of cold fire. Alexia Davenport," the woman purred. "Miles has been raving about you." Lexi had never heard her name sound so sensual. Her brain short-circuited. "All good, I hope." The woman smiled, and Lexi's knees nearly betrayed her. Then the stranger leaned in, breath brushing Lexi's ear. "You're staring." Lexi froze, cheeks burning. Her heart stuttered, and then the world went black. Chapter 3. Angels Walk Among Us. Kira Kallstrom caught her before she hit the floor, smooth, instinctive, like she'd done it 1,000 times. She lowered Lexi gently, resting her head on her lap. Her accent curled through the hush. "Can I have some water, please?" Someone scrambled to bring it. Kira dipped a napkin, wrung it out, and brushed it over Lexi's temple, her movements delicate but sure. "Mardu bra," she murmured, "are you okay?" Lexi's lashes fluttered. She blinked up into those piercing blue eyes, and everything came back at once, the embarrassment, the heat, the fact that she was lying in this woman's lap. She sat up too quickly, cheeks blazing. Kira's hand steadied her. "Did you eat today, Alexia Davenport?" The question was soft, but there was command beneath it. Lexi forced herself upright, taking Miles's offered hand. "I'm fine," she muttered. Kira stood with an effortless grace. "You should take better care of yourself." That did it. Lexi spun toward her, eyes flashing. "Who the hell do you think you are?" And before her brain could catch up with her mouth, her hand did the unthinkable. The slap cracked across the room like a gunshot. Gasps rippled. Silence fell. Lexi yanked her hand back, humiliated, furious, and stormed out before anyone could stop her. Miles caught up at the door. "Lexi, wait. I'll call you a ride." She shook her head, heels striking the pavement as she escaped into the night. She only wanted air, space, distance from the fire crawling under her skin. Then headlights. A blur of motion. A hand grabbed her, pulling her back hard as a car sped past. Lexi looked up, right into those same blue eyes. "Kira." "What the hell?" Kira's lips brushed her ear, voice low. "Second time tonight I've saved you, Alexia Davenport." Lexi tried to push her away, but found her grip iron strong. "Fine," she snapped. "Thank you." Satisfied, Kira threw her head back and laughed, a sound rich enough to melt steel. Her arms still circled Lexi's waist, close enough for Lexi to feel her warmth. And just like that, the fury tangled with something else, something she didn't want to name. She looked up at Kira, torn between slapping her again and kissing her senseless. Chapter 4. The Mafia Queen Part 1. Kira, Princess Kallstrom, daughter of the notorious Nino, the golfer Kallstrom, had taken over the family empire 7 years ago when her father was ambushed and killed, leaving her to inherit a kingdom of power, loyalty, and danger. And she ruled it all with a smile that could melt ice and a hand that could crush bone. She didn't look like your typical mafia queen. Easily mistaken for a supermodel, every inch of her screamed elegance, not ruthlessness. But cross her and you'd witness a hell few survived. Her reputation stretched across rival gangs, her allies, and the streets alike. She dressed to perfection, smiled at everyone, funded community kitchens, and ensured the homeless were cared for. Yet, step on her toes, and a very different kind of hell emerged. Now, standing with the woman she had just slapped, Kira's arms around Lexi, the red-haired firestorm who had tried to push her away, she felt a pull she hadn't experienced in years. Unheard of. Dangerous. Delicious. Lexi's eyes flashed with a mixture of fury and awe, the only woman who had ever made her pause in this way. Kira tilted her head, letting the silence stretch just long enough to tease, just long enough for Lexi's pulse to betray her resolve. "You really have a problem with authority, don't you?" Kira murmured, voice smooth, almost velvet, brushing against Lexi's ear. Lexi's mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. I don't need." Her words failed her entirely. Kira smiled faintly, eyes glittering with mischief and challenge. "No, you don't. But you want to." Lexi's fingers twitched. She wanted to push Kira away, to assert herself, but every part of her mind, body, and stubborn, chaotic heart wanted to lean in, to see how far this dangerous woman would go. And so the game began, Lexi trying to deny her fascination, Kira testing boundaries, each banter-laced exchange a subtle war of wills. Lexi walked briskly down the street, heels clicking on the pavement, the winter air stinging her cheeks. Her head still spun from the evening, the wine, the conversations, the woman she had slapped. Kira Kallstrom. Platinum hair, piercing blue eyes, a presence that demanded attention and refused denial. Her mind fought itself. She's dangerous. She's ruthless. She's something Lexi had never felt before. And she would not let her anywhere near her company, her life, or her routines. Yet, Kira had a way of lingering in memory, in pulse, in the itch of curiosity Lexi couldn't shake. Back in her apartment, Lexi locked the door, leaning against it as if it could hold her sanity in place. She unpinned her hair, letting the curls fall like a fiery halo around her face, and sat heavily at her desk. Her laptop blinked softly in the darkness. The numbers, the code, the growth charts, her sanctuary. A soft ping interrupted her thoughts. An email. Subject: a proposition. Lexi's fingers hovered over the keyboard. She almost deleted it, almost sent it straight to spam, but curiosity, that stubborn, chaotic thing she hated, won. From Kira Kallstrom. "I enjoyed saving you tonight. And I believe we could make an empire together, if you let me." Lexi's brow furrowed. Make an empire together? Who is she kidding? Kira was from a different world entirely. Dangerous, powerful, untouchable. And Lexi? A recluse with a tech company she had clawed from nothing. Lexi typed a response, short, firm. "I appreciate the concern, but I don't mix business with whatever this is. Stay away from my company." She hit send and leaned back, heart thundering against her ribs. She hated that she wanted Kira to reply. She hated the heat that ran through her veins at the thought of that voice, that presence. Hours passed. The city outside went quiet. And then her laptop pinged again. From Kira Kallstrom. "I don't do stay away, Alexiere. I do influence. I do power. And I have a feeling you'll eventually let me in whether you like it or not." Lexi threw the laptop closed, standing abruptly. She needed air, space, a wall to push against. But even as she paced, plotting how to keep Kira out of her life, she felt the pull, undeniable, infuriating, dangerous. A knock at her door startled her. She peered through the peephole. "Kira." Lexi froze. I told you." "I don't take no for an answer," Kira said smoothly, standing on the threshold like she owned the place. Her smile was both challenge and promise. "You can push me away, Alexiere. But I like it when someone tries to fight me." Lexi gritted her teeth. "You can't just walk into my life, my apartment, my—" "Yet here I am," Kira interrupted, stepping in as if the door meant nothing. "And here I'll stay until you at least hear me out. We'll talk business, eventually. But tonight? I just want to know the woman behind the laptop, the one Miles keeps bragging about." Lexi's pulse raced, her instincts screaming to push her out. But something in Kira's gaze, amusement, danger, and that undeniable pull, rooted her in place. Infuriating, Lexi whispered, crossing her arms, trying to reclaim control. And you're deliciously stubborn, Kira countered, taking a measured step closer, which makes me want to test every limit. Professionally, personally, every way I can. Lexi's stomach twisted, her mind fighting her body's reaction. She wanted to push, to resist, to run. But Kira had already infiltrated her defenses, quiet, deliberate, undeniable. The night stretched between them, heavy with unspoken challenges, flirtation, and the subtle, dangerous game that had begun. Lexi didn't yet trust it, didn't yet want it, but the truth whispered in her blood. Kira wouldn't leave. And maybe, just maybe, she didn't want her to. Chapter 5. The Mafia Queen Part 2. Kira, Princess Kellstrom, sat in the corner of her private office, the city sprawling like a chessboard beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows. The night lights glittered against the glass, mirroring the sharp edge in her blue eyes. Her office was deceptively serene. Polished black floors reflected the glow of artfully placed lamps. A crystal decanter held amber liquid, untouched for the moment, and a single black leather chair sat angled, waiting. The scent of expensive wood, perfume, and a faint trace of gunpowder lingered, a memory of her life, ever present. Kira's attention, however, wasn't on the city or the office. It was on the fiery redhead sitting stiffly in front of her, arms crossed, cheeks still flushed from the slap that had cracked the room 2 nights ago. Lexi Davenport, brilliant, stubborn, unyielding, and utterly irresistible. You really think you can storm in here and act like you own the room? Kira asked softly, letting the words stretch like silk across Lexi's senses. I don't act, Kellstrom. I am. Lexi's sharp retort came out on a breath, her green eyes flashing. Kira tilted her head, letting a slow smile curve her lips. Oh, I don't doubt it. But you have potential. Untamed, chaotic potential. She leaned back slightly, crossing one leg over the other, studying Lexi with the predator's patience she had learned from years in her father's shadow. Lexi shifted, uncomfortable, but unwilling to look away. Every instinct screamed run, yet every nerve hummed with something dangerously close to anticipation. Untamed is one thing. Reckless is another, Lexi replied, tone clipped, fingers brushing against the sleek arm of the chair. Kira murmured, voice low and teasing, and here I thought I might enjoy taming the reckless. Her piercing blue eyes didn't blink, holding Lexi captive without a single touch. Lexi's breath hitched. She wanted to deny the reaction, to retreat into logic, but her heart refused. You think this is a game, don't you? Kira leaned forward slightly, the movement smooth, deliberate, magnetic. Maybe it's a test. Lexi's lips parted. And what if I fail? Then Kira purred, leaning even closer, letting her words dance along Lexi's cheek. You don't get out of my world so easily. Lexi flinched but did not step back. Her pulse raced, and the internal war began. Pushed Kira away, but part of her wanted to lean into the danger. Part of her wanted to know what it would feel like to surrender, even just for a moment. Kira watched this battle unfold, amusement sparkling in her gaze. She stood and circled the office slowly, each step deliberate, a predator pacing. She stopped behind Lexi's chair, close enough that Lexi could feel the warmth radiating from her body. You know, Kira said, voice soft but deliberate, I don't let anyone get close. Not like this. Not you. Lexi's hands clenched in her lap. Then why do it? Why even care? Because some people, Kira murmured, letting a strand of platinum hair fall over her shoulder, are worth breaking the rules for. Lexi's pulse hit a new rhythm. Her lips trembled as she tried to find words, but Kira's presence silenced her. The room seemed smaller, tighter, wrapped in the quiet danger and heat of unspoken promises. Kira finally stepped back, a faint smirk playing at her lips. I'll give you time, Alexire. But don't make the mistake of thinking this ends tonight. Lexi stood abruptly, wrapping her jacket tighter, trying to reclaim control. I don't need your games. Kira's laugh followed her as she headed toward the door, low, melodic, dangerous. Oh, Alexire, you already are playing. You just haven't realized it yet. As the office door clicked shut behind Lexi, Kira lingered by the window, looking out at the city below. The night was hers, the empire hers, but something else had entered her life, wild, untamed, irresistible. And she had no intention of letting it go. Chapter 6. The Offer They Can't Refuse. Lexi returned to her apartment, closing the door behind her with a soft click that echoed too loud in the empty space. Her heels were off, jacket tossed onto the chair. She paced, trying to shove thoughts of Kira from her mind. She failed. The evening had been a haze of charm, cocktails, and whispers, but Kira lingered. She was confident, commanding, the kind of woman who didn't just enter a room, she claimed it. Lexi had tried to remain polite, professional, distant. She had failed spectacularly. A soft chime from her phone drew her attention. An email. From Kira Kallstrom. Subject: Let's talk numbers. Lexi groaned, dragging herself to her desk. I don't mix business with whatever you think this is. Keep your distance. She hit send before hesitation could creep in. Then she forced herself back to work, opening her spreadsheets, reviewing projections, closing deals, anything to distract from the pull that lingered in her chest. Hours passed. The hum of the city below was the only companion until a knock at her door shattered the silence. Lexi froze, pulse racing. She peeked through the peephole. Kira. Smiling. Calm. Unflinching. Lexi stepped back from the door. I told you. You did. I heard you. And I like it when people talk tough. Makes it easier to see where the cracks are. Kira's voice slid through the door like silk over steel. Lexi's hand gripped the handle. I don't let people just walk in, and I especially don't let them near my company. Kira laughed softly, the sound confident and teasing. Relax, Alexiere. I'm not here to take over your empire, yet. I'm here because I like the way you run things. That fire. That chaos. That stubborn streak. Lexi pressed her forehead against the door, trying to center herself. You're infuriating. And you're deliciously guarded. Kira stepped closer, and Lexi's pulse betrayed her again. It's a puzzle I plan to solve. Slowly. Professionally, and maybe not so professionally. Lexi pulled back sharply. You don't know me. You think you do, but you don't. Maybe not, Kira admitted, voice lowering just enough to make Lexi shiver. But I want to. And I don't take no for an answer. Lexi swallowed hard. She hated the heat creeping into her chest, the tug at her logic, the way her careful walls were starting to crack. Fine, Lexi said, finally stepping back. If you want to talk business, tomorrow. Same time. Don't make it personal, don't make it weird. Kira's smile widened, a glint of mischief in her eyes. Oh, I'll try my best. But I can't promise you won't enjoy it. As Kira left, Lexi leaned against the door, fingers trembling slightly. She was supposed to feel wary, guarded, in control. Instead, she felt pulled, drawn, and completely unprepared for the game that had already begun. And Kira? Kira walked away with the quiet satisfaction of a predator who had already marked her prey. Lexi didn't know it yet, but her world was about to get a little more dangerously alluring. Chapter 7. A Proposal with a Twist. Lexi arrived at the sleek glass building, laptop bag slung over her shoulder, her crimson curls pinned back just enough to keep them from falling into her face. She had told herself this meeting was purely business. Nothing more. Yet, as soon as she stepped into the lobby, her pulse quickened. She knew Kira was here, somewhere, waiting with that unnerving confidence that made Lexi want to both run and stay. A receptionist gestured toward the elevator. Miss Kallstrom is expecting you on the top floor. Lexi's stomach tightened. The elevator ride felt longer than it should, every floor chime echoing like a drumbeat to her nerves. When the doors opened, Kira was there, standing tall, platinum hair perfectly straight, tailored suit hugging her frame with dangerous precision. She didn't smile immediately. Instead, she studied Lexi with a look that was part appraisal, part amusement. Alexiere, Kira greeted, voice low, smooth, teasing. Fashionably punctual. I like that. Lexi squared her shoulders, trying to maintain her usual professional air. You said business. Let's keep it that way. Kira's lips curved into a slow, knowing smile. Always so serious. Don't worry. I do have numbers to show you. Projections, market analysis, expansion possibilities. Lexi nodded, letting herself follow Kira into a glass-walled office that overlooked the city's skyline. The room smelled faintly of leather and expensive coffee, the kind of office that screamed influence and power. Kira gestured toward the sleek black chairs. Sit. Let's talk shop. Lexi took a seat, opening her laptop instinctively, but Kira's eyes didn't leave her. I'll get to the point, Kira said, voice crisp. I like what you've built. Your company innovative, ambitious, laser-focused. But there's untapped potential. Markets that can double your reach. Capital to scale operations faster than you've imagined. Lexi frowned, crossing her arms. I appreciate the offer, but I don't need anyone meddling in my company. I've built it from the ground up. I know my numbers. Kira leaned back slightly, letting the words hang. I don't intend to meddle. I intend to partner. Lexi's eyes narrowed. Partner how? Investment? Takeover? Neither, Kira said softly, leaning forward, letting her piercing blue eyes lock with Lexi's green ones. Guidance. Support. Influence where it counts. Someone who knows the stakes. Someone who can make the tough calls when the market shifts. You. Lexi blinked, trying to mask the small flicker of intrigue she felt. And what do you get out of it? Kira's smile was faint, teasing, dangerous. Me? I like power. I like vision. I like someone unafraid of chaos, but smart enough to control it. And I like a challenge. Lexi's lips twitched, part annoyance, part something she refused to name. You're infuriating. Do you know that? Every day, Kira said with a wink. And yet, you're still here. Still listening. That means something. Lexi slammed her laptop shut slightly harder than necessary, trying to reclaim control. Fine. I'll consider your proposal. But this doesn't mean anything personal. I don't do personal. Kira stood and circled the desk slowly, deliberate, graceful. Oh, I know. And I don't push, unless someone refuses to see what they could have. But Alexire, she paused, tilting her head, eyes sparkling with mischief. Some doors are better left unlocked. Some challenges are too tempting to ignore. Lexi's stomach twisted. She hated it. Hated that her mind kept returning to Kira's voice, her gaze, the way she leaned in just slightly too close. You'll hear from me soon, Kira said, finally stepping back. Think it over. Numbers first. But don't pretend you're not curious, or tempted. As Lexi left the office, she felt the weight of Kira's presence lingering in the air, in her pulse, in the tiny spark of something reckless deep inside her. She should resist. She should stay focused on the company, on her life, on the quiet, controlled existence she had fought to protect. But she didn't. And Kira? Kira had already won the first subtle battle. Chapter 8. Crossing the Line. Lexi sat at her desk, staring at the blinking cursor on her laptop, trying to focus on code, projections, anything. But every time she thought about the meeting, the memory of Kira's piercing blue eyes lingered. She hated that she couldn't get it out of her head. A soft knock on the glass door startled her. She looked up. Come in. Kira stepped inside, holding a sleek leather portfolio, dressed in a sharp suit that made her look like she could command a boardroom or a battlefield. Unexpected? Lexi asked, her voice clipped. Not really, Kira said, her tone smooth, teasing. You didn't seem like the type to ignore an invitation. Lexi bristled. I said consider your proposal. I didn't say I accepted. Kira circled the desk slowly, letting her gaze roam over Lexi's workspace like she owned the room. I know. I like to watch the gears turn before someone answers. It's enlightening. Lexi's pulse quickened despite herself. You're infuriating. And you're stubborn. Deliciously so, Kira countered, stopping just behind Lexi's chair. Lexi felt the warmth of her presence, the faint scent of her perfume, clean, sharp, intoxicating. She turned slightly, just enough to meet Kira's gaze. I don't know what game you're playing, Lexi said, voice low. I run a tech company. I don't flirt with investors. I'm not just any investor, Kira said softly. I'm someone who sees potential. in business and people. And I don't give up easily. Lexi's hand twitched toward her laptop as if the cold keyboard could shield her from Kira's stare. I don't need anyone to see my potential. I manage fine on my own. Kira leaned closer, just enough for Lexi to feel the heat on her neck. Maybe you do. Maybe you just don't know it yet. And maybe you're curious. Lexi's breath caught. She swallowed hard, hating the flutter in her chest. Curiosity doesn't mean anything. I'm cautious. I keep my distance. I can respect that, Kira said, voice teasing, almost whispering. But some doors are meant to be opened. And some people, she tilted her head, letting a sly smile play across her lips. Some people are worth the risk. Lexi turned away, trying to focus on her spreadsheets. But the corner of her eye caught Kira's reflection in the window. The way she stood, confident, poised, in control. Dangerous. Irresistible. Fine, Lexi muttered, finally breaking the silence. You can stay. But strictly business. And only for the next hour. Kira's smile widened, satisfaction flashing briefly in her piercing blue eyes. 1 hour is plenty. And who knows, maybe you'll enjoy it. Lexi shook her head, feeling the pull she hated, the temptation she shouldn't give into. You're impossible. And yet, Kira said softly, leaning closer again, you're still here. That counts for something, doesn't it? Lexi exhaled slowly, gripping the edge of her desk. She hated that it did. Chapter 9. The Proposal They Both Know. Lexi's office smelled faintly of coffee and electronics, the hum of the servers a comforting background rhythm. She sat rigid at her desk, reviewing projections for the next quarter. She hated admitting it, but Kira's presence from the last meeting lingered in her mind, pulling at thoughts she should have buried. The knock came softly, deliberate. Lexi didn't answer immediately. She knew who it would be. Kira, she said finally, without looking up. The door opened and Kira stepped in, holding a sleek portfolio, her gaze sharp and measured. You called me in, Lexi said flatly, trying to sound firm. I did, Kira said smoothly, stepping closer. And I think you'll find this interesting. She laid the portfolio on the desk with a soft click, sliding it toward Lexi. Lexi's fingers hesitated over it. Explain. I'll be brief, Kira said, leaning against the desk, arms crossed, gaze never leaving Lexi's. I have access to private markets, international investors, and strategic contacts in Asia and Europe. Your expansion could happen in months instead of years. Lexi raised an eyebrow. And you're offering this for free? Not free, Kira countered, voice low, teasing. Partnership. Influence. Guidance. I help you grow. You give me insight into your world. We both gain. Lexi's chest tightened. She wanted to say no, wanted to push Kira away, wanted to remind herself that she didn't need anyone. Yet the lure of growth, of possibility, it tugged at her carefully controlled logic. I don't know you, Lexi said finally. I don't trust you. And I don't need someone like you involved in my company. Kira smiled faintly, leaning just close enough for Lexi to feel the warmth of her presence. That's because you only know the surface, Alexiere. I'm not here to intimidate. I'm here to challenge. And yes, I want in. But only because I see potential where others see risk. Lexi's fingers twitched over the edge of the desk. She hated the heat creeping into her chest, hated the pull of curiosity. You're infuriating. And yet, Kira said softly, stepping closer, letting her hand hover near Lexi's papers without touching, you're still listening. That counts for something, doesn't it? Lexi swallowed, trying to focus on the spreadsheets, on the numbers, on anything that would allow her to ignore the flutter in her chest. This isn't personal, she said, voice tight. I run a tech company. I don't mix business and whatever this is. Kira's eyes sparkled with mischief. Maybe not yet. But sometimes, the best collaborations happen when you least expect it. Don't fight it, Alexiere. Just consider it. Lexi exhaled slowly, leaning back, realizing she had already considered it far more than she wanted to admit. She hated that she was intrigued. Hated that her pulse quickened when Kira smiled. Hated that the teasing, confident tone of her voice had already started to unravel her control. And if I say yes, Lexi muttered, almost to herself. What exactly do you get out of this? Kira leaned in, close enough that Lexi could feel the warmth against her arm. I get a front row seat to your brilliance. And the satisfaction of seeing someone stubborn like you succeed, with a little guidance from me. Lexi narrowed her eyes, trying to mask her curiosity, her irritation, and the fluttering in her chest. Front row seat, huh? That's ambitious. And you, Kira said, letting the words linger, are exactly the kind of challenge I enjoy. Lexi shook her head, hating the heat creeping through her. Impossible. And yet, Kira whispered, stepping back with a faint smile, here I am. And here you are. That counts for something too. Lexi watched her leave, heart pounding, mind spinning, knowing she should resist, should maintain her distance, should protect her carefully built world. But deep down, she already knew. Kira wasn't leaving. Not now, not ever. And maybe, just maybe, she didn't want her to. Chapter 10. Calculated Risks. Lexi's office smelled faintly of fresh paper and coffee as she stared at her laptop screen, fingers hovering over the keyboard. The spreadsheets and projections for the Asian expansion lay open in front of her, but her mind kept wandering to the last meeting with Kira. A soft chime from the doorbell interrupted her thoughts. She looked up to see Kira standing in the doorway, portfolio tucked under her arm, a faint smile playing across her lips. Good morning, Alexia, Kira said smoothly. I thought we might get started. Lexi lifted an eyebrow. You're early. Punctuality is part of professionalism, Kira said, stepping into the office. And besides, she paused, letting her gaze sweep over Lexi. I like to see the wheels in motion myself. Lexi crossed her arms, resisting the warmth that fluttered through her chest. All right, let's focus. Numbers, projections, and timelines. Strictly business. Kira's smile widened, mischievous. Strictly business. Understood. She leaned against the edge of Lexi's desk, pulling out a tablet and scrolling through the figures she had prepared. Your growth potential in Asia is impressive, but there are some bottlenecks you haven't considered. Marketing, distribution channels, local regulations. Lexi glanced at the screen, reluctantly impressed. These projections are thorough. But I don't need someone to tell me about regulations. No, you don't, Kira said softly, tilting her head. But you do need someone who can anticipate challenges before they become roadblocks. Someone who sees the bigger picture. Lexi felt her pulse quicken, annoyance and intrigue warring within her. And I suppose you're offering to be that someone? I am, Kira said, leaning just close enough for Lexi to feel the faint warmth radiating from her. If you'll let me. Lexi's fingers tapped nervously on the desk. Let you? This isn't personal, Kira. I run a company. I don't mix business and whatever this is between us. Kira's eyes sparkled with mischief. Oh, I know. And I don't push unless someone refuses to see what they could have. But Alexia, she leaned closer, her voice dropping to a velvety whisper. Some risks are worth taking. Lexi's chest tightened. She hated how her mind immediately went there, imagining Kira leaning closer, touching her, speaking just for her. I'm not interested in risks of that kind, she said, voice steady, though her heart betrayed her. Kira chuckled softly, leaning back just enough to give Lexi space while keeping the tension taut. I'm not offering that, yet. For now, we focus on the numbers. But remember, some doors, they're meant to be opened slowly. Lexi's fingers hovered over the keyboard again, but her thoughts were elsewhere, torn between frustration and fascination. Fine. Numbers first. As they worked through the projections, Kira's presence was a constant, subtle pressure, teasing remarks, flirtatious glances, challenges wrapped in professionalism. Lexi pushed back, refusing to give in to the growing heat in her chest. But with every clever suggestion, every small victory in their collaboration, the walls she had carefully built around herself began to tremble. By the end of the day, Lexi leaned back in her chair, exhausted and wired at the same time. Kira stood near the door, portfolio in hand, eyes gleaming with satisfaction. You did well today, Kira said softly. And you did it on your terms. Lexi tried to keep her expression neutral. I run a company. I do well every day. That's my job. Kira's smile was faint, knowing, teasing. Yes, but not every day do you get to work with someone who sees all the angles, Alexia. Someone who might just make the path a little smoother and more interesting. Lexi shook her head, trying to dispel the warmth creeping through her. I'm not interested in anything beyond business. Kira's eyes glittered like a challenge. For now. As she left the office, Lexi felt the quiet hum of the city below and the even quieter pull of something dangerous and irresistible. She hated that she was intrigued. Hated that she was already wondering what the next meeting would feel like. Hated that Kira had gotten under her skin. And deep down, she knew Kira wasn't finished. Chapter 11. Influence and Intrigue. Lexi's morning started like any other: coffee, laptop, and an endless stream of emails. But the first alert that popped up on her screen made her stomach twist. Regulatory hold on expansion in Singapore. Immediate action required. Her fingers froze over the keyboard. A week of meticulous planning threatened to unravel. Before she could even breathe, a soft knock echoed through the office. She looked up. Kira stood there, as always calm, poised, and infuriatingly present. Her piercing blue eyes scanned Lexi with that dangerous smile. Problem? Kira asked, stepping in without waiting for an invitation. Lexi clenched her jaw. I just got a regulatory notice. Singapore has placed a hold on our permits. It's complicated. Kira tilted her head, assessing the situation like a predator examining its prey. Complicated can be solved. You just need someone who knows how to navigate delicate situations. I don't need someone who plays games with influence, Lexi snapped, though her pulse betrayed her irritation. Kira raised an eyebrow, unfazed. I don't play games. I move things. Strategically. Quietly. Efficiently. You'll thank me later. Lexi's fingers drummed on the desk. And I'm supposed to just let you handle this? Not just yet, Kira said, leaning forward, letting her hand hover over the paperwork without touching it. I'll guide you. Show you the right moves. You do the talking, I'll make sure the door's open. Lexi's pulse quickened. The idea of surrendering control, even partially, made her bristle. But the alternative, watching her carefully crafted expansion crumble, was worse. Fine, she said, trying to keep her voice steady. But only on this. And only because I have no other choice. Kira's smile was slow, deliberate, and teasing. Oh, I know. You'll protest every step of the way. And I'll enjoy it. But in the end, you'll see, it works. Always does. For the next several hours, they worked side by side. Lexi handled the calls, the official letters, the meticulous explanations. Kira moved like a shadow in the background, quietly manipulating, making subtle phone calls, sending messages that Lexi didn't see. By the time the sun began to dip below the skyline, the hold on Singapore was lifted. Lexi stared at the notification in disbelief. How? She whispered. Kira's voice was calm, almost smug. Influence, Alexia. Knowing the right people, the right way to approach them, timing. You don't need to know everything. Just that it works. Lexi's chest tightened, part admiration, part irritation. You make it sound effortless. Like it's magic. Kira stepped closer, just enough for Lexi to feel the faint heat radiating off her. For some of us, it is. Lexi's heart thudded against her ribs, her mind spinning. She wanted to resist, to push Kira away, to remind herself she didn't need whatever this pull was. And what about you? Lexi said finally, trying to regain composure. Do you always get your way? Kira's smile was slow, knowing, and dangerous. Only with people who are worth the effort. And you? Her eyes locked with Lexi's, teasing, challenging, daring. Might just be one of them. Lexi shook her head, trying to clear the fog of heat and intrigue. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. And yet, Kira whispered, leaning closer, letting the words brush against Lexi's ear. Here you are. Still standing. Still watching. Still resisting. I admire that. Lexi exhaled slowly, gripping the edge of her desk. She hated that she did admire it too. She hated that the challenge, the teasing, the subtle power play had already begun to consume her. As Kira stepped back, Gathering her portfolio, Lexi's mind raced. She knew this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. And part of her didn't want it to be. Chapter 12. The Gala of Temptation. Lexi stared at her reflection, silently cursing herself. A floor-length black gown, delicate silver detailing, heels that threatened her balance. This was not her world. Yet here she was, stepping into a glittering ballroom, the scent of perfume and polished wood heavy in the air. "You look perfect," Kira's voice cut through Lexi's swirl of thoughts. She was already beside her, dressed to kill in a midnight blue gown that hugged every curve, her piercing eyes scanning the room like a predator surveying her territory. Lexi's lips pressed into a thin line. "I feel like a stranger in my own skin." "Then let's make sure no one notices," Kira said softly, leaning in just enough for Lexi to feel her warmth. Her hand brushed briefly against Lexi's elbow as they walked toward the crowd. Lexi's pulse betrayed her, quickening despite herself. The gala was a glittering display of wealth, influence, and ambition. Investors, CEOs, socialites, all mingling under chandeliers that sparkled like constellations. Lexi's usual sanctuary of logic and control felt impossibly distant. Kira navigated the crowd with ease, introductions flowing like water from her lips. "Alexiere, meet Mr. Delgado. He's been following your tech progress closely. And Ms. Tanaka, your expansion in Singapore will make her very happy." Lexi nodded politely, answering questions with tight professionalism, but always aware of Kira just a step behind her. Kira's presence was a constant weight, warm and magnetic, teasing Lexi's attention without ever touching. At one point, Kira's hand brushed Lexi's back as she guided her toward a conversation. Lexi's body stiffened. "Careful," she muttered, but her tone lacked conviction. "Careful is boring," Kira whispered, lips brushing against Lexi's ear. "And I think you're anything but boring." Lexi's breath hitched. She turned slightly, meeting Kira's gaze, a silent challenge passing between them. "I'm not here for games." "Neither am I," Kira said, her eyes glittering with mischief and something darker. "I'm here to make sure you succeed, and maybe enjoy the evening a little." Lexi wanted to resist. She wanted to retreat into spreadsheets and conference calls where control was absolute. Yet every step Kira took beside her, every word, every glance, stirred something in Lexi she had long buried. By the end of the evening, Lexi found herself reluctantly smiling, laughing at Kira's dry humor, and noticing how the Platinum Blonde's influence subtly opened doors, invitations, conversations, opportunities Lexi couldn't have imagined. As the gala wound down, Kira leaned close, her voice low, intimate. "You handled this beautifully. Better than I expected." Lexi's chest tightened. I survived," she muttered, though her voice betrayed a flutter of admiration. Kira's smile was slow, teasing, dangerous. "You didn't just survive, Alexiere. You thrived. And I'll be watching closely." Lexi's pulse raced as she watched Kira glide away, leaving her with a cocktail in hand, mind swirling, heart betraying her with every beat. For the first time, Lexi realized that some risks, some people, were worth every ounce of resistance. And Kira was one of them. Chapter 13. Shadows and Secrets. The city lights glimmered beneath them as Lexi stepped out onto the balcony of her suite. The gala's glittering chaos was behind her, replaced by a soft hush of wind and distant traffic. She clutched her clutch tightly, trying to steady her racing thoughts. A soft sound behind her made her turn. Kira leaned casually against the balcony railing, arms crossed, eyes reflecting the city glow. "You didn't stay for the after-party," Kira observed, voice smooth, teasing. "I needed air," Lexi replied quickly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "And to think." She paused, then tried to regain composure. "And to regain my dignity." Kira chuckled softly, stepping closer, closing some of the distance without being invasive. "You have dignity in abundance, Alexiere. But there's nothing wrong with letting someone see a little vulnerability." Lexi's pulse quickened. "I don't do vulnerability. Not outside my work." "And certainly not this," she said, jerking her head slightly toward Kira. Kira tilted her head, eyes sparkling. And yet, here you are. Balcony. Lexi's chest tightened, part anger, part desire. She hated that she was drawn in, hated that she couldn't look away, hated that the curiosity, the pull, the subtle intimidation, thrilled her. Kira tilted her head, scanning Lexi carefully. You'll learn soon enough that some doors are meant to be opened carefully. Slowly. But they're worth the risk. Lexi wanted to resist, to retreat into logic, into control. And yet, she felt the undeniable tug of Kira's presence, the magnetic weight of her confidence and unspoken power. Some risks are dangerous, Lexi admitted, voice low, almost a whisper. Kira's smile was slow, deliberate, and teasing. The most dangerous ones are usually the ones worth taking. Lexi looked away, toward the city lights, but she could feel Kira's gaze, piercing, almost challenging, burning into her. She didn't know what she was willing to risk yet. But she knew, with chilling certainty, that Kira wasn't finished with her. And deep down, part of her didn't want her to be. Chapter 14. Family and Temptations. Lexi was used to solitude. The hum of her apartment, the quiet click of her laptop keys, the comforting predictability of her routines, these were the constants in her life. Her mother's visit, however, was a delightful disruption. Lexi. My girl, her mother's warm voice greeted her at the door. She swept Lexi into a hug, spoiling the neat apartment with laughter and chatter. You've been working too hard. I insisted on a proper mother-daughter break. Lexi laughed softly, letting herself be pulled into her mother's infectious energy. Mom, you don't have to do this every year. Every year is the perfect reason. Coffee, gossip, and maybe even a little shopping, her mother replied, eyes twinkling. You need it, and you know it. The first day passed in a blur of city walks, cozy cafes, and laughter that filled the apartment. Lexi enjoyed the reprieve, almost forgetting the weight of her work and the strange pull of Kira. On the second day, as they strolled through the bustling streets after brunch, Lexi's mother stopped abruptly, pointing toward a sleek black car parked nearby. Now, who is that? She asked with a mischievous grin. Lexi turned, frowning slightly. The platinum blonde woman from the gala, Kira, was stepping out of the car, dressed casually but impossibly elegant, her piercing blue eyes scanning the street. Lexi froze. Oh, Before Lexi could explain, Kira noticed her and smiled, waving in a way that seemed both casual and deliberately intimate. Alexia, what a surprise. Her mother blinked, then smiled warmly, stepping forward. And you are? Kira extended her hand with a graceful tilt of her head. Kira Kallstrom. A friend of your daughter's, a business associate. Lexi's pulse spiked. Business, yes. Kira, this is my mother. Her mother's eyes lingered on Kira, unspoken curiosity in the warm gaze. Pleased to meet you, Kira. I hear you've been helping Alexia with some very important projects. Kira's smile deepened, eyes flashing just slightly playful, teasing, commanding. I do what I can to support talent. Alexia is exceptional. Anyone would be lucky to work with her. Lexi's ears burned. Her mother's approving nod made her chest tighten. She shot Kira a sharp glance. I don't know if I'd call you lucky, she muttered under her breath. Kira leaned in slightly, just close enough for Lexi to feel the subtle warmth, the magnetic pull. Oh, I think we're both learning something new about luck, she whispered, eyes sparkling. Lexi swallowed, torn between irritation, disbelief, and something she couldn't quite name. Mom, we should continue walking, she said firmly, guiding her mother gently ahead. Kira gave a mock bow, retreating gracefully to let them pass. Until next time, Alexia. I'll be watching. Lexi's pulse thrummed in her chest long after Kira's figure disappeared down the street. Her mother chattered on about cafes and small boutiques, but Lexi's mind lingered on the way Kira had invaded her world, effortless, seductive, and impossible to ignore. That evening, over wine and home-cooked pasta, Lexi's mother observed quietly. You've been smiling more these past few days. Something new in your life. Lexi froze, caught between denial and truth. She shook her head lightly. Just work, Mom. Her mother's knowing smile lingered. If work is making you blush like that, Maybe it's time to look closer at other distractions. Lexi rolled her eyes, but felt her heart race. Some distractions, she realized, were far more dangerous than spreadsheets or board meetings. And Kira. Kira was dangerously captivating. Chapter 15. Professional Tension. The apartment felt quieter once her mother's cab pulled away, leaving only the faint scent of her mother's perfume lingering in the air. Lexi exhaled deeply, straightening her posture as if she could physically shake off the lingering distraction. Work awaited. The spreadsheets, projections, and strategy plans, her world of certainty. Her phone buzzed. A message from Kira. I hope your mother didn't overwhelm you too much. Coffee tomorrow? I have a few ideas for your expansion that I think you'll find intriguing. Lexi stared at the message, fingers hovering over the keyboard. She typed, deleted, and finally settled on. Thank you, Kira. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. Professional only. The word professional felt like a shield, a reminder to herself that she wasn't here to be charmed. The next morning, Lexi arrived at the small, upscale cafe Kira had suggested. She found Kira already seated, casually elegant in a tailored blazer, notebook open, coffee untouched. Her piercing blue eyes lifted, locking onto Lexi with an intensity that made her pulse skip. Morning, Alexiere, Kira greeted, voice warm, teasing. You survived your mother's invasion, I hear? Lexi's lips pressed into a thin line. Yes. And I survived seeing you on the street like some urban legend come to life. Kira laughed softly, the sound low and teasing. Legend? Hardly. But you do make me sound more dramatic than I am. Lexi rolled her eyes, but allowed herself a small smile. Let's get to work. Kira flipped open her notebook, sliding a tablet across the table to Lexi. I've been thinking about your Asian market expansion. The numbers you saw with Miles, they're good, but they're surface level. Let me show you projections that go deeper, partnerships, distribution, marketing strategies. Lexi leaned forward, scanning the tablet. Despite her resolve, she had to admit the analysis was impressive. Kira's approach was meticulous, almost surgical. Lexi felt a reluctant admiration building. Kira's eyes met hers. You're thinking about turning me down, aren't you? Lexi straightened, voice firm. I'm cautious. I don't know who you are outside of business. And I don't do favors, alliances, or surprises. Kira's smile was slow, deliberate. Surprises are the best part of life, Alexiere. But don't worry, everything I propose is grounded, profitable, and designed to make you shine. If you let me. Lexi swallowed, her mind racing. She wanted to assert control, to maintain the wall she'd built around her life. And yet, every time she looked at Kira, that magnetic pull, challenging, teasing, dangerous, pulled at her defenses. Professional, Lexi said again, almost a mantra, scanning the charts. Let's see if your projections hold up. Kira leaned back slightly, satisfied, but her eyes glimmered with something more. Of course they do. But remember, Alexiere, even the most professional of us can be tempted. Lexi's pulse quickened, a shiver running down her spine. She focused on the numbers, but in the back of her mind, she knew Kira wasn't finished with her. And she wasn't sure she wanted her to be. Chapter 16. Boardroom Games. Lexi strode into the sleek conference room, her heels clicking with familiar authority on the polished floor. This was her domain. Charts, projections, negotiations, strategy, control. She was comfortable here, untouchable, predictable. Kira was already seated at the head of the table, laptop open, tablet by her side. She looked calm, collected, effortless, yet impossible to ignore. Her piercing blue eyes followed Lexi as she entered, a small, teasing smile playing at her lips. Alexiere, Kira greeted, voice warm but charged with something that made Lexi's pulse quicken. Right on time. I like that. Lexi's lips pressed into a thin line. Let's get started. Minutes passed in the flurry of numbers, graphs, and market analysis. Kira's insight was razor-sharp, highlighting opportunities Lexi had overlooked. Lexi kept her focus tight, countering each suggestion with precise logic, yet she couldn't help glancing at Kira every so often, noticing the subtle way she leaned forward, hands brushing the tablet, voice dropping lower as she explained complex strategies. You see, Kira said, tilting the screen toward Lexi, a local partnership here isn't just strategic. It's leverage. And leverage opens doors, doors most people don't even realize exist. Lexi's brow furrowed. I don't rely on doors that can be shut out from me. I prefer paths I control. Kira's smile deepened, slow, knowing. But sometimes paths you control can be limiting. A nudge from the right person changes the landscape entirely. And I'm very good at nudges. Lexi's throat went dry. She wanted to assert dominance, to focus purely on business, but the subtle undertone, Kira's presence, her words, her eyes, tugged at something she hadn't felt in years. Something dangerous, intoxicating. And if I say no? Lexi challenged, voice low but steady. Kira leaned back, letting her gaze linger. Then I accept it. Gracefully. But I always know where the cracks in a plan, and a person lie. And I enjoy observing what happens next. Lexi's hands tightened on her pen, heart hammering in protest at the thrill and tension she could not name. She hated how much attention she was giving Kira, how distracted she felt despite herself. Fine, Lexi said, finally, scanning the projections again. We test your strategies. If the numbers hold, we proceed. Nothing personal. Of course, Kira said, eyes flashing with something unreadable. Business first. Always. But Alexiere, she let the word linger like a caress. Even in business, there's room for excitement. Lexi forced a nod, swallowing hard. She refused to admit that the smallest word, the tiniest glance from Kira, sent electricity through her veins. The meeting ended professionally, numbers aligned, strategies set, yet Lexi's mind was far from spreadsheets. She left the conference room with a controlled gait, heels clicking, yet her thoughts were consumed by the platinum blonde who had just, once again, unsettled her entire world. Outside, Kira waited, casually leaning against the wall. You did well, she said softly, voice intimate. Even when you resist, you excel. Lexi shot her a sharp glance. That's what I do. Kira's smile was slow, teasing, dangerous. I know. And I like it. Lexi swallowed, straightened, and walked past her, leaving a lingering tension in the air, the unspoken challenge, the magnetic pull, the dangerous game they had begun. And Lexi knew deep down, this game was only getting started. Chapter 17, Sparks and Circuits. The auditorium smelled of polished wood and electronics, a faint undercurrent of ozone from the prototypes resting on display tables. Lexi's pulse was steady, controlled. This was her domain, her innovation, her ideas, her rules. Kira was already seated near the front, casually elegant in a sleek black blazer. Her piercing blue eyes tracked Lexi as she moved between the demonstration tables, checking cables, calibrating sensors, and reviewing the latest software integration. Everything looks impeccable, Kira said, voice smooth, carrying effortlessly across the small space. You've outdone yourself, Alexiere. Lexi kept her eyes on the devices, pretending not to notice the way Kira's gaze lingered. Thank you. Let's see if the demonstration holds up under scrutiny. Investors and tech journalists began filing in, murmuring excitedly, taking seats. Lexi's fingers moved confidently across the tablet, activating the first prototype, a sleek, modular device capable of real-time data analysis for multiple industries. The lights dimmed slightly and Lexi launched into her presentation. Voice steady, eyes scanning the room, she explained the software's capabilities, integration points, and security protocols. Every movement was precise, deliberate, a ballet of intelligence and control. From the corner of her eye, she caught Kira leaning forward, elbows on her knees, chin resting lightly on her hand, watching with a mixture of fascination and amusement. You know, Kira said quietly, so only Lexi could hear, watching you in this element, it's mesmerizing. You're brilliant. Lexi felt a flush rise to her cheeks, but ignored it, continuing her demonstration. The investors nodded, impressed by the seamless integration and intuitive design. During a Q&A, one of the investors asked a pointed question about international scalability. Lexi answered, precise, concise, yet her mind flickered briefly to Kira. She noticed the subtle lift of Kira's eyebrow, the faint smirk, as if challenging Lexi to handle more than just technical questions. After the session, Lexi walked among the devices, collecting feedback forms and answering casual questions. Kira approached, notebook in hand, casually stepping close. "You handled that flawlessly," Kira murmured. "But you hesitate, sometimes. Not with tech, of course. That's your armor, but with other things. People. Trust." Lexi froze, heart racing. "I don't hesitate with what matters," she replied carefully, trying to sound calm. Kira's lips curved into a slow, teasing smile. "Even the strongest armor has gaps, Alexiere. I like finding them." Lexi's pulse quickened. "I don't entertain distractions during work." Kira leaned closer, voice low, a teasing whisper that made Lexi's breath hitch. "Who said this is a distraction? Consider it an observation. A lesson. A way to see what you're capable of beyond spreadsheets and devices." Lexi wanted to retreat, to reassert control, but the magnetic pull, the way Kira could stand near her, tease her, challenge her, was undeniable. "You'll need to leave before the press does," Kira added softly, almost a suggestion, almost a command. "Unless you want to risk lingering longer than necessary." Lexi straightened, forcing a professional smile, and nodded. "I'll manage." As Lexi packed up the devices, she couldn't shake the feeling that Kira wasn't just observing the tech. She was observing her. Every reaction, every hesitation, every flicker of distraction. And Lexi knew, with a mixture of irritation and thrill, that Kira was far from finished. When they stepped outside, Kira's hand brushed Lexi's lightly as they walked to the car. It lingered a second longer than necessary. "Impressive," Kira said, voice low. "All of it. And you." Lexi pulled her hand back instinctively. "Let's focus on the tech." Kira's laugh was soft, intimate, teasing. "Of course, Alexiere. But some sparks cannot be ignored." Lexi exhaled, heart pounding, aware that the spark Kira ignited tonight wasn't in any device, it was in her. Chapter 18, After Hours. The auditorium lights were off, the echoes of applause and conversation long gone. Lexi lingered, checking her devices one last time, ensuring everything was packed and accounted for. She liked leaving nothing to chance. Control was her currency. "You always work too late," a familiar voice said from the doorway. Lexi didn't turn immediately. "I make sure nothing is left to chance," she replied, voice cool, professional. Kira stepped into the dim light, casual elegance in black, eyes sparkling with that impossible mixture of amusement and intent. And yet, sometimes leaving a little to chance can be interesting. Lexi's fingers paused over a tablet. "I don't do interesting." But interesting finds you whether you want it to or not," Kira countered, stepping closer. The soft click of her heels on the polished floor was unnerving in the empty space. Lexi's pulse quickened, but she forced herself to remain upright, professional. "I work alone. And I prefer it that way." Kira smiled, slow, teasing. "Of course. But sometimes, even the strongest of us need someone to notice what we're doing." She moved closer, close enough Lexi could feel the faint warmth radiating from her. "And I notice you, Alexiere. Every calculation, every decision. You impress me." Lexi swallowed, forcing her gaze back to the devices. "I don't need anyone's approval." "Approval?" Kira's voice dropped, softer now, almost intimate. "I'm not talking about approval. I'm talking about attention, care, observation. You've spent so long controlling everything, let someone else see it with you." Lexi's chest tightened. She hated how much her pulse betrayed her, how much the sound of Kira's voice unbalanced her. "This isn't the place, or time," she said firmly, trying to anchor herself in reason. Kira leaned against a table, casually, dangerously close. "Oh, I think it's exactly the place, and exactly the time. The others are gone. No press, no distractions. Just you and me." Lexi felt heat rise in her cheeks, but she squared her shoulders. "This is professional. If you have feedback on the demo, give it. Otherwise." Kira's hand brushed a tablet across the table, intentionally close to Lexi's. Fingers almost touched. Feedback. Always. But sometimes feedback is about the person, not the project. And I think you need to see that. To feel that. To understand how compelling you are, Alexiere. Lexi's hand trembled slightly as she picked up the tablet, her pulse betraying the calm mask she wore. I don't entertain distractions. And you're that. Distraction. Nothing more. Kira's laugh was soft, teasing, a sound that made Lexi's chest tighten. She stepped closer, voice a low whisper. Distraction? Perhaps. Or maybe, the thing you didn't know you were craving. And I'm very patient. Lexi took a step back, desperate to regain control. I need to finish checking the devices. Kira's eyes followed her, unrelenting as she leaned closer again. Of course. Finish your work, Alexiere. But remember, the sparks you feel now aren't part of any device. They're real. Lexi exhaled, heart pounding. She hated how much Kira unsettled her. She hated how much she wanted to be unsettled. And as she packed the last device, she knew one thing for certain. This game was only beginning, and she might already be losing. Chapter 19. Shadows in the Night. Lexi stepped out of the penthouse building, the night crisp and sharp around her. Her heels clicked against the pavement as she walked toward the car waiting at the curb. The city was alive with lights and distant sirens, but her mind was still spinning from the closeness, the accidental touches, the intensity of Kira's presence. Sliding into the car, she felt the familiar hum of the engine and tried to shake the lingering heat from her veins. She was alone now, or so she thought. As the vehicle merged into traffic, Lexi's instincts prickled. A black SUV had been trailing her since she left the building. She frowned, shifting slightly in her seat. Could be coincidence, she told herself. Maybe, maybe not. She tapped her fingers lightly on the door, trying not to let the rising tension show. The SUV stayed close, slowing when she slowed, taking the same turn she did. Her mind raced. Miles wouldn't let anyone tail her, and yet, someone had. Someone aware. Someone watching. Relax, Alexiere, she whispered to herself, trying to calm the storm of adrenaline. But her pulse betrayed her, rapid and uneven. The SUV edged closer at a red light, tinted windows hiding whoever was inside. Lexi noticed the slight emblem on the hood, a subtle, almost invisible mark, one she didn't recognize, but somehow triggered a deep sense of unease. Across the city, Kira's name echoed in her mind. She hadn't mentioned anything about rivals tonight, not directly. But this was someone from her world. Someone who didn't play fair. The SUV followed her to the street leading to her apartment. Lexi's fingers tightened on the seat, heart hammering. She debated calling the police, but something told her intervention wouldn't come from them tonight. As she turned into the alley near her building, the SUV hesitated, then fell back, merging into the shadows like a predator withdrawing, for now. Lexi exhaled sharply, forcing her body to relax, but her mind raced. Someone was watching. Someone new. And even if she didn't understand it fully yet, she knew it had Kira's name written all over it. Sliding the door closed behind her, Lexi glanced up at her apartment building, aware that tonight had just shifted. The sparks with Kira, the accidental touches, now carried an edge of danger. And deep down, she knew this was only the beginning of what she had stepped into. Chapter 20. Shadows and Sparks. Lexi's heels clicked sharply against the pavement as she left her building, clutching her bag tighter. The night was still, almost too quiet, and the crisp wind did nothing to calm the knot tightening in her chest. At first, she thought it was coincidence. The black SUV trailing her had appeared after she left the penthouse. But as she made her way through the city streets, weaving between cafes and late-night pedestrians, it remained there, lurking just out of reach. She ducked into a small convenience store to grab a bottle of water, hoping to lose the vehicle. As she scanned the aisles, she caught a glimpse of a man standing near the entrance, hands stuffed into his coat pockets. His face was obscured by a hood, but when their eyes met briefly in the reflection of the glass door, Something about him sent a shiver down her spine. She left quickly, heart hammering, and the SUV was waiting again at the curb. Her pulse raced. Whoever was following her wasn't sloppy. They were careful, patient, watching every move. By the time she reached a quiet side street near her apartment, Lexi noticed two figures standing just around the corner. Casual, inconspicuous, but when they shifted, the moonlight glinting off a wristwatch gave her pause. Their posture wasn't casual. It was predatory. Her instincts screamed. She fumbled for her phone, debating calling Miles, when movement at the end of the street caught her attention. A car slowly turned to match her pace again, and this time, headlights glinted off a metal object tucked into the passenger's lap. Lexi's breath caught. This wasn't ordinary. Before panic could take full hold, a familiar presence slipped alongside her. Kira. You're far too obvious, Kira murmured, her voice low, smooth, and commanding. She stepped close, brushing against Lexi's arm in the dim light. The accidental touch sent an involuntary shiver through Lexi. And far too exposed. Lexi blinked, barely able to form words. Kira, how? Kira's piercing blue eyes scanned the street, sharp and calculating. I've been keeping an eye on you. Some people here, they shouldn't be. She gestured subtly toward the SUV now trailing a few car lengths back and the shadowed figures down the street. You're walking in the wrong part of the city for someone who doesn't notice the dangerous ones. Lexi's chest tightened. I can handle myself. Kira's hand brushed lightly against her back, guiding her behind a parked car just as the SUV paused and a tinted window slid open, a stranger's face briefly illuminated. Lexi felt heat rise to her cheeks, the adrenaline and Kira's proximity creating a dangerous mixture of fear and something else. Not this time, Kira whispered, voice teasing but edged with steel. Let me handle it. Within moments, the SUV's engine growled, and it disappeared into the night, vanishing as suddenly as it appeared. Kira's gaze softened slightly, lingering on Lexi. You're safe now. For tonight. Lexi's pulse still raced, heart hammering in her chest. She wanted to step back, to reassert control, but the warmth radiating from Kira and the lingering touch made her body betray her intentions. Thank you, Lexi said finally, voice husky, caught between relief and something more, electric. Kira's smirk was slow, teasing. You're welcome. But remember, Alexiere, danger isn't always obvious. And neither am I. Lexi's knees almost buckled under the intensity of that statement, her mind spinning with fear, desire, and confusion. And as Kira stepped closer, brushing her hand against Lexi's just a fraction too long, Lexi realized with a mix of frustration and thrill, she was caught and Kira had no intention of letting go. Chapter 21. Lines blurred. Lexi sat behind her desk, the glow from her laptop painting her face in pale light. She forced herself to focus on spreadsheets, projections, and investor reports, trying to push the adrenaline from the night out of her system. Control. That's all she wanted. A soft knock at the door broke her concentration. Alexiere. Kira's voice, smooth and confident, carried across the room. Lexi straightened instantly. This is a working session, Kira. If you're here for business, speak. Kira leaned casually against the doorframe, a slight smirk tugging at her lips. Always so formal. Don't tell me you think we can't mix a little pleasure with business. Lexi froze, fingers gripping her pen. This is about the tech demo, right? Of course. Kira stepped inside, closing the door softly behind her. We're reviewing your interface, your projections, but I noticed a few things you might have missed. She moved closer, pointing at the screen, her shoulder brushing Lexi's just enough to make her heart stumble. Lexi's throat went dry. She wanted to step back, enforce distance, but the proximity, the heat radiating from Kira, made it impossible. I already double-checked everything, she said, voice tighter than intended. I know, Kira murmured, voice low, almost intimate. But even the most meticulous minds can overlook subtleties. And sometimes, it helps to have a second pair of eyes. Especially when those eyes are trained to see patterns most people miss. Lexi's pulse quickened, not just from the compliment, but from the way Kira's hand brushed against hers as she pointed to the laptop. Sparks ran up her arm, and she clenched her jaw, trying to maintain composure. "Professional," Lexi said sharply. "Focus on the demonstration." Kira chuckled, low and teasing. "Always trying to control everything, aren't you? But control is overrated." She leaned closer, so close Lexi could feel her breath. "Sometimes, surrendering a little is far more exhilarating." Lexi's fingers trembled slightly on the keyboard. She wanted to retreat, to remind herself of boundaries. But the blurred line between admiration and attraction made it impossible. Kira's proximity, her teasing, her eyes, it was all disorienting. Lexi started, but Kira's hand brushed hers again, this time just above the keyboard, lingering. "Shoo," Kira whispered, a hint of mischief in her tone. "Let's just see where this takes us." "Professional, yes. But exhilarating, also yes." Lexi swallowed hard, trying to reclaim authority. "This isn't, it's." "Kira, we are supposed to be focusing on the tech." "Exactly," Kira interrupted, her voice softening. "We are. But I promise you, Alexia, the sparks we feel now will make the project unforgettable." Lexi's heart raced, a mix of fear, desire, and frustration. Every nerve in her body wanted to pull away, and yet, she couldn't. She couldn't deny that every glance, every brush of Kira's hand, every teasing whisper sent a thrill she'd never admit aloud. And as Kira leaned just slightly closer, enough that Lexi could feel the faint heat from her shoulder, Lexi realized, with a mixture of exasperation and longing, professional and personal lines had blurred, and she was already halfway over the edge. Chapter 22. Private Temptations. The office lights dimmed as Lexi closed her laptop, leaving only the soft glow from the desk lamp. She exhaled, trying to shake off the lingering adrenaline from Kira's proximity earlier. Alone now, or so she thought. Kira stepped quietly into the room, leaning casually against the doorframe. "You always work late," she observed, voice low and smooth. "Doesn't anyone ever tell you to rest?" Lexi straightened, her back stiff. "I get enough rest. I just prefer to work in peace." Kira's gaze softened slightly, but there was still that teasing spark. "Peace," she murmured, "or isolation? Sometimes the difference is enlightening." Before Lexi could respond, Kira was closer, the space between them shrinking to inches. Lexi's breath hitched. The faint scent of her perfume, mingled with the sharp, intoxicating heat of Kira herself, made her pulse jump. "You've been resisting me," Kira said quietly, brushing a hand lightly across Lexi's arm as she spoke. "But it's exhausting to watch you fight what's already here." Lexi's fingers curled into fists, trying to anchor herself. "Kira, this." Kira's finger gently tilted Lexi's chin, forcing her to meet the piercing blue eyes that seemed to see straight through her. She whispered, voice low and intimate. "We haven't even started." The accidental brush of her hand against Lexi's sent a spark that shot straight to her core. Lexi wanted to step back, to reclaim control, but her body betrayed her. Her knees felt weak, her pulse erratic, and every rational thought scrambled. "I'm not," Lexi tried to speak, but Kira's lips curled into a teasing smile, leaning slightly closer. "You're thinking," Kira murmured, "but your body isn't listening." Lexi's heart pounded, caught between desire and self-restraint. Every inch Kira closed the distance made her ache with anticipation and frustration. She wanted to push Kira away, to tell her this was inappropriate, but the intensity of the moment made her lips quiver, her resolve crumble. A faint knock at the door made Lexi start, but Kira's hand lingered on her wrist, warm and firm, grounding her. "Ignore it," she whispered, voice soft but commanding. "Right now, it's just us." Lexi's breath hitched again as Kira's hand slid slightly, grazing hers in a way that felt deliberate. The teasing heat, the subtle dominance, the closeness, it was overwhelming. Lexi faltered, voice trembling, caught between saying no and giving in. "Shoo," Kira murmured, stepping even closer, so close Lexi could feel the warmth of her chest. "You don't need to say anything." Just feel. Lexi's rational mind screamed at her, warning of consequences, boundaries, professional lines. Yet every nerve, every instinct, every fiber of her being screamed something else entirely. Stay. Feel. Don't resist. For a moment, the world narrowed to just the two of them. The dim light, the electric tension, the barely there touches that left Lexi reeling. And deep down, she realized with a mix of terror and thrill, Kira wasn't going anywhere, and neither could she. Chapter 23. The First Kiss. The office was quiet, the soft hum of the city outside barely audible through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Lexi's pulse was still racing, her body buzzing from the lingering heat of Kira's presence. Every nerve seemed alive, every instinct on edge. Kira stepped closer, her movements slow, deliberate. Lexi's chest tightened as Kira's eyes locked with hers, piercing, daring, teasing all at once. "You've been resisting me for far too long," Kira murmured, her voice low, intimate, like velvet brushing against skin. "But I think you're ready." Lexi swallowed hard, trying to regain composure. This is not." Kira reached out, her hand brushing a stray curl from Lexi's face, tracing the line of her jaw with the lightest touch. "Shoo," she whispered, leaning just slightly closer. "You don't have to say anything." The world seemed to narrow, the air between them charged, thick with anticipation. Lexi's knees felt weak, her heart beat loud in her ears. Every rational thought scrambled. She wanted to step back, to reclaim control, but the pull of Kira, magnetic and undeniable, was too strong. Then Kira closed the distance. Just for a heartbeat, their lips hovered, teasing, hesitant. Lexi's breath caught. The space between them was electric, every nerve ending alive. And then it happened. Kira pressed her lips to Lexi's, soft at first, testing, coaxing. Lexi froze, stunned by the intensity, then slowly responded, her own lips tentatively meeting Kira's. Sparks shot through her, a jolt of heat and desire that made her shiver from head to toe. Kira's hands moved with confidence, one sliding to cradle Lexi's cheek, the other resting lightly at the small of her back, grounding her. Lexi's hands hovered, unsure, then slowly found their place against Kira, pulling her closer without meaning to. The kiss deepened, lingering, teasing, a dance of fire and restraint. Lexi's mind screamed at her, warning of boundaries, professional lines, the world outside, but none of it mattered. In that moment, there was only Kira, only the heat, only the pull they could no longer deny. When they finally parted, both breathing heavily, Lexi's eyes searched Kira's, wide and vulnerable. Lexi began, voice trembling. "I know," Kira interrupted, her smirk returning, teasing, triumphant. "You feel it too. Admit it." Lexi's cheeks burned, her pulse wild, her mind spinning. She wanted to protest, to push back, to reclaim control, but the truth burned hotter than any fear. She couldn't deny it. Not anymore. Kira leaned close again, whispering just at the edge of her lips, "We're only getting started, Alexire." Lexi swallowed, heart pounding, as she realized with equal parts terror and thrill, her world had just shifted, and Kira had pulled her right into the eye of the storm. Chapter 24. Taken and the Rescue. Lexi's evening ended like any other, a quiet walk from her office to the car she had parked a few blocks away. Her mind still lingered on Kira, the kiss, the heat of their last private encounter, and the adrenaline of almost losing herself in it. But the city had other plans. A van slipped silently behind her as she moved through the shadows of an empty street. Before she could react, a hand grabbed her, cloth pressed over her mouth, and darkness swallowed her. Her pulse skyrocketed, terror choking her thoughts. Let me go," she struggled, but the grip was unyielding. Panic and helplessness surged as she was dragged into the back of the van, thrown onto a hard seat, and bound. The engine roared, and the vehicle sped into the night. Lexi tried to think rationally, but fear clouded everything. Whoever had her knew exactly what they were doing. Names of business rivals, whispers she had overheard about Kira's enemies, flashed in her mind. And for the first time, she realized just how real the danger surrounding Kira could be. The phone buzzed in Kira's hand. A text from an unknown number, short and ominous. "She's with us now. Don't interfere." Kira's piercing blue eyes narrowed, jaw tight. "Alexiere," she murmured, almost to herself. Then, like a predator, she moved, fast, precise, lethal. The van was on a deserted stretch of road when Kira struck. The doors slid open with a forceful kick, her black-clad body moving with deadly grace. A hand grabbed a rival and threw them to the ground before they could react. Lexi's eyes widened as she saw the figure she had thought of as merely a charming, teasing woman transform into something unstoppable, dangerous, and beautiful all at once. "Kira," Lexi stammered, fear and awe mixing in her chest. "You were foolish enough to think you could touch her," a rival snarled, advancing. "I think you're about to learn how dangerous wrong choices are," Kira said, voice cold and deadly. In one fluid motion, she disarmed the man, leaving him groaning on the asphalt. Lexi's breath caught. She had never seen such power, such authority. The playful, teasing Kira of before had vanished, replaced by a force of nature that protected her with everything she had. The rivals fled, and Kira turned to Lexi, her eyes softer now, but the intensity still burning. "Are you okay?" she asked, brushing a strand of hair from Lexi's face. Lexi's knees almost buckled as she looked up. I didn't know. I mean you." Kira's hand rested on Lexi's cheek, thumb tracing lightly. "This is who I am, Alexiere. Not just the charming investor, the teasing presence. This is the side you should never underestimate." Lexi swallowed hard, fear and desire flooding her senses. I had no idea." "And now you do," Kira murmured, leaning closer. Her lips brushed against Lexi's forehead, a soft, intimate touch. "And I hope you understand, no one harms you. Not while I'm here." Lexi's heart raced, chest tight, mind spinning. The playful flirtation, the teasing touches, the kisses, they all collided with the reality of Kira's power. I don't know if I can ever handle all of this," Lexi whispered, voice trembling. Kira's lips hovered near hers, teasing, dangerous. "You already are, Alexiere. You're handling it by staying." And in that instant, Lexi knew there was no going back. Chapter 25, Aftermath. Lexi sat in the quiet of her apartment, the city lights casting pale streaks across the room. Her hands still trembled slightly, though she had scrubbed them raw, washing them over and over, trying to make sense of what had just happened. Her phone buzzed, a single message from Kira. "Didn't think I'd let anyone touch you. Ever. You should rest." Lexi's thumb hovered over the reply. Rest? She felt anything but rested. Her chest still raced from the adrenaline, her mind replaying the night, the van, the fear, Kira's lethal precision, and that impossible, soft touch that followed. She shook her head. She's a threat. She's dangerous. And yet, I can't stop thinking about her. The dichotomy gnawed at her. One minute, Kira was teasing, playful, intoxicating. The next, she was a storm of power and control, a woman who could destroy anyone in her path without a second thought. And Lexi. Lexi had been caught somewhere between awe and desire. The doorbell rang, and Lexi jumped. A voice she had come to both dread and crave filtered through the intercom. "I'm outside." "Don't worry, I didn't bring anyone this time." Lexi hesitated. Her instincts screamed at her to ignore it, to lock the door, to pretend the night hadn't happened. And yet, something in her chest refused. With trembling hands, she opened the door. Kira stood there, impeccably dressed as always, a small, almost imperceptible smirk on her lips. "You're avoiding me," she said simply. Lexi crossed her arms, trying to reclaim her composure. I don't know how to deal with you." Kira's eyes softened slightly, though the edge of dominance never left them. "Deal with me? Alexiere, you've been trying since the first time we met. And I'm still here. You didn't run." Lexi's lips parted, words failing her. She wanted to tell Kira that she was terrifying, that she was maddening, that she was everything Lexi shouldn't want and yet did. Instead, she said, stiffly, "I don't know how to see you. One minute, you're the playful investor. The next, the woman in that van, taking down men like it's nothing. How am I supposed to reconcile that? Kira stepped closer, close enough that Lexi could feel the heat radiating off her. You don't have to reconcile it, she murmured. You just accept it. Accept me. Both sides. The dangerous, the teasing, the impossible. And maybe, somewhere in between, you'll find you want it. Lexi's heart hammered, her pulse deafening in her ears. I don't know if I can, she admitted, voice barely above a whisper. You can, Kira said, brushing a strand of Lexi's hair behind her ear. Because the part of you that's resisting? That part is exactly the part one want. The chase, the struggle, the fire, it's everything that makes you you. And I'm not giving up, Alexiere. Not now. Not ever. Lexi's breath hitched as Kira's hand lingered near her cheek, teasing, almost daring. She wanted to pull away, to tell herself this was madness. But the pull was too strong. Her body remembered the warmth, the safety, the thrill of Kira's closeness, and the undeniable desire that had been building since the first touch. And for the first time, she allowed herself to admit, just barely, I want her. Even if she terrifies me. Chapter 26, Surrender. Lexi sat stiffly on the edge of her sofa, arms wrapped around herself, still reeling from the night before. Kira's words echoed in her mind, mingling with the memory of her strength, her closeness, her almost teasingly deliberate touches. A soft knock broke her reverie. Kira entered without waiting, moving with her usual effortless grace, closing the distance between them. You're thinking too much, she said quietly, perching on the edge of the coffee table, just close enough that Lexi could feel the warmth radiating from her. Lexi straightened. I am not, she said, though her voice betrayed her. Kira's piercing blue eyes held hers, unrelenting. Lexi, you are. Every inch of you. And it's exhausting to watch you fight what you already feel. Lexi's pulse quickened. She wanted to push Kira away, to claim professional distance, to remind herself that Kira was dangerous, powerful, untouchable. But the desire in her veins screamed louder than her mind ever could. I can't, Lexi faltered. Kira leaned forward, letting her hand brush lightly along Lexi's arm. The touch was soft, teasing, intimate, sending shivers down Lexi's spine. Can't what? Resist me? Lexi's lips parted, heart hammering. She couldn't deny it. Not now. Not with Kira's gaze, her breath close, every movement deliberate. Her body betrayed her, leaning slightly into the warmth she tried so hard to resist. Maybe, she whispered. Maybe? Kira smirked, leaning closer until their knees brushed. That's all I needed to hear. Her hand lifted, brushing a loose curl from Lexi's temple, lingering at her jawline. Lexi's breath hitched, chest rising, heart racing. The rational part of her screamed to step back, to reclaim control, but every fiber of her being melted against the magnetic pull of Kira. Slowly, impossibly, Kira leaned in, giving Lexi no escape. Her lips hovered, teasing, just brushing against hers. Lexi's eyes fluttered closed, every nerve in her body igniting. You have no idea what you do to me, Kira murmured against her lips. Lexi's arms fell to her sides, weak, trembling. I don't even know who I am around you anymore, she admitted, voice barely audible. Then maybe it's time you find out, Kira whispered, and finally closed the distance. The kiss was electric, a collision of fire and longing, teasing and hunger. Lexi's world narrowed to Kira's lips, her warmth, her strength, and she finally let herself feel everything she had been denying. When they broke apart, Lexi gasped, mind spinning, pulse racing. Kira's eyes sparkled, satisfied but patient, as if daring her to fight or surrender. I don't know if I can, Lexi admitted again, voice shaking. Kira smiled, that dangerous, intoxicating smile. You can. You're already here. That's all the surrender I need for now. And in that moment, Lexi realized resisting Kira wasn't an option anymore. Not if she wanted to survive the storm or revel in it. Chapter 27, Tangled Lines. Lexi couldn't sleep. Her mind replayed every detail from the night before. The kiss, Kira's closeness, the warmth, and the thrill of knowing she had survived because of Kira's power. She wasn't sure if she was exhilarated, terrified, or painfully aware of how much she wanted this dangerous woman in her life. Probably all three. A soft knock at the door jolted her out of her thoughts. Kira entered again, moving like a shadow, confidence in every step. She carried 2 glasses of wine and a faint, teasing smile. "I figured you might be awake," she said, setting one glass on the small table beside Lexi. Lexi hesitated. "I didn't expect." "Expect me?" Kira's lips curved. "You shouldn't. But you also shouldn't fight it." They sat in silence for a moment, the city lights stretching across the walls like an audience for their tension. Lexi took a sip of wine, trying to calm the pounding in her chest. "So," Kira said finally, leaning slightly closer, "you're alive. You're terrified. And yet, you're still here." Lexi swallowed hard. I don't know why I am." "You're here because you're curious," Kira said, her voice low and soft. "Because part of you wants this me. And part of you is smart enough to know this could destroy you." Lexi's fingers fidgeted with the edge of her sleeve. I don't know how to trust you. Not fully. Not yet." Kira reached over, brushing a hand across Lexi's knuckles, lingering in a silent promise. "Then we'll take it slow. But know this. Nothing, no rival, no danger, no fear is going to stop me from keeping you safe. You don't have to trust me entirely right now. Just enough to let me in." Lexi's heart skipped, and for the first time, she allowed herself to consider it. The kiss had been a spark. This touch, this calm, deliberate closeness, was fire waiting to be fanned. And then there was the shadow, Kira's rivals. Lexi caught a glimpse of a black SUV parked across the street, headlights dim but unwavering. She stiffened. "I see them," she whispered, voice tight. Kira's eyes flicked to the window, then back to Lexi. "They're persistent," she murmured, tension threading her voice. "But we're more persistent. You trust me?" Lexi hesitated, then nodded slowly, though her pulse was racing. I do. I trust you to handle them." Kira smiled softly, leaning closer, her presence both comforting and intoxicating. "Good. That's enough for now." Hours passed like minutes. They shared quiet laughter, teasing banter, and glances that lingered too long, touches that were accidental and deliberate all at once. Lexi felt her professional walls crumbling, replaced by something far more dangerous, the magnetic pull of Kira, irresistible, intoxicating, and utterly overwhelming. As the night deepened, Lexi finally admitted it to herself. "I'm falling for her. Completely. Even if she terrifies me." Kira leaned back, eyes glinting with triumph and mischief. "Good," she whispered. "Because I don't plan on letting you go." And outside, the city slept, unaware that 2 dangerous hearts had found each other amidst shadows, power, and desire, and that the storm of rivals and threats was far from over. Chapter 28. Off Limits. Lexi didn't know how long she had been driving home, eyes darting nervously to the rearview mirror. That black SUV was still following her, and now she could see another, trailing a block behind. Her heart pounded, fingers gripping the steering wheel as the city streets blurred past. She tried calling Kira, but no answer. Panic gnawed at her chest, not for herself, but because she knew how lethal Kira could be if she were caught before getting there. And then, just as Lexi slowed at a red light, 2 men in dark coats stepped from the shadows, forcing her to swerve. "Stop the car," one shouted. Her instinct screamed, "Run." Lexi hit the accelerator, tires screeching as she darted down a side street. But the SUVs were relentless. Then came the sound she recognized immediately, a quiet, measured, and terrifyingly calm voice over the car's Bluetooth. "Don't move. Alexiere." Kira's voice. The panic in Lexi's chest twisted into a strange mix of relief and awe. A moment later, the street exploded with controlled chaos. Tires screeched, engines roared, and gunfire, precise, silent, rang out from unseen places. Lexi ducked instinctively as a black van screeched past, leaving 2 unconscious men sprawled in the street. Kira's SUV pulled up alongside Lexi's, door swinging open. "In." Now. Lexi didn't hesitate. She jumped in, and the door slammed shut behind her. Kira sat beside her, calm, dangerous, and impossibly beautiful. You okay? She asked softly, eyes scanning the streets with a predator's precision. I think so, Lexi breathed, still trembling. Think. Kira's smile was sharp, amused, and terrifying all at once. I just cleared your path, and you say think? Lexi could only gape. Kira's presence was overwhelming, intoxicating, and deadly. She wanted to lean into her, to cling, to feel protected by the unthinkable power Kira wielded so effortlessly. I can't, Lexi stammered, voice catching. I can't even imagine how you handle them. Kira finished for her. Her blue eyes sparkled with mischief and dominance. I don't need you to imagine. I need you to know. They know now. All of them. You are mine. Off limits. Do not touch. Ever. Repeat after me, you're not to be touched. Lexi's breath hitched. The words sounded almost surreal coming from Kira, but the truth in them made her stomach twist. I am not to be touched, she whispered, a shiver running through her. Good, Kira said, her lips brushing Lexi's temple as they drove. Because I don't negotiate. You are mine, publicly and privately. Anyone who thinks otherwise will learn what it means to cross me. Lexi's mind reeled. Mafia queen. Protector. Lover. Dangerous beyond imagination. And I want her anyway. As Kira's SUV pulled them back to safety, Lexi realized something she hadn't yet allowed herself to admit fully. She didn't just want Kira's protection, she wanted her entirely. And Kira, unflinching and unyielding, had just made that impossibly clear. For the first time, Lexi felt the weight of being claimed not with chains, not with threats, but with an irresistible, magnetic force that left no room for doubt. She was his world, and Kira had declared it publicly, an unbreakable, intoxicating claim that left her trembling and strangely exhilarated. Outside, the city hummed, unaware that its most dangerous woman had just sent a clear message. Lexi Davenport was off limits. Forever. Chapter 29. Claiming Hearts. The penthouse was quiet, the city lights spilling across the walls like molten gold. Lexi stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows, watching the skyline, chest still racing from the night's events. Her fingers grazed the glass, tracing shapes she couldn't name. Behind her, Kira's presence was sudden and deliberate, warm and magnetic. You think too much, she murmured, stepping closer until Lexi could feel her heat. Lexi swallowed. I'm still overwhelmed. By me? Kira teased, brushing a strand of hair from Lexi's face. Her fingers lingered along Lexi's jaw, thumb brushing her lips. Or by everything I've shown you tonight? Lexi's lips parted, heart pounding. All of it. Kira silenced her with a finger against her lips. No words. Just feel. And Lexi did. She felt every inch of Kira's closeness, the strength in her arms, the confidence in her touch, the promise in her eyes. Her walls, built over years of solitude, cracked, then shattered. Kira's lips found hers, slow at first, testing, teasing, and then demanding. Lexi's hands trembled as they went to Kira's shoulders, then slid down her back, feeling the taut muscle beneath her clothing. Every kiss, every brush of skin against skin ignited sparks that shot through her veins like wildfire. You're mine, Kira whispered against her lips, breath hot and intoxicating. And I won't let anyone forget it. Not rivals. Not fear. Not even you if you try to resist. Lexi gasped, pulled into the warmth, the fire, and the overwhelming desire she had tried so hard to deny. I love you, she admitted, voice trembling but clear. Kira's eyes widened for a heartbeat, then softened into something raw and infinite. You feel that, huh? You finally admit it. Her lips found Lexi's again, softer this time, slower, a kiss full of trust, of surrender, of a promise that went beyond the night. Lexi clung to her, letting herself fall entirely into Kira's arms, into the dangerous, intoxicating world she had once feared, now unable and unwilling to escape. Hours passed like minutes. Clothes fell, barriers melted, and every touch became a vow. Kira moved with deliberate precision, exploring, claiming, cherishing, while Lexi surrendered completely, not just her body, but her heart, her trust, and her love. When they finally lay together, tangled in each other, Lexi rested her head against Kira's chest, listening to the steady, commanding heartbeat that had protected, claimed, and ignited her world. "I'm yours," Lexi whispered. "You're mine," Kira replied, pressing a kiss to the top of Lexi's head. "Forever. Nothing and no one will change that." Outside, the city pulsed with life, unaware that two hearts had been claimed, bonded by desire, trust, and an unbreakable promise, and that Lexi Davenport had finally embraced the woman, the power, and the dangerous, thrilling world that was Kira Kallstrom. Chapter 30. Bound by Fire. The sun had barely risen when Lexi awoke, tangled in Kira's arms. The night's passion still lingered in the warmth of her skin, the scent of Kira in the air, and the thunderous certainty of her love. But the morning wasn't gentle. Her phone buzzed insistently on the bedside table. Groaning, Lexi reached for it only to freeze. Multiple missed calls, encrypted messages, and one text flashing repeatedly. "You're warned." "Step back." Lexi's stomach nodded. Her gaze drifted to Kira, still sleeping with an almost predatory serenity. "What now?" she whispered, half to herself, half in awe. Kira stirred, opening one eye lazily. "Trouble," she said with a smirk, stretching beside Lexi. "And it's persistent." Lexi bit her lip. "Is this them? Your rivals?" "Exactly," Kira replied, brushing Lexi's hair from her face. "They don't like boundaries, and I made yours crystal clear last night. Now they're testing me, testing us." Lexi's pulse quickened, but this time it wasn't just fear. It was anticipation. Every threat to Kira's world felt like a thread that tied her closer, not away. The day passed in a haze of coded messages, subtle threats, and Kira orchestrating a counterstrike that Lexi could only watch in awe. Every move Kira made was precise, ruthless, and undeniably elegant. By evening, Lexi was standing beside her on the balcony of Kira's penthouse, city lights reflecting in her wide, awed eyes. "You make it look effortless," she admitted. Kira chuckled softly, brushing a thumb along Lexi's cheek. "It's not effortless. It's practice. And patience. And knowing exactly who to protect." Her voice dropped, low and intimate. "And right now, that's you, Alexia." Lexi's knees went weak, and she caught herself on the railing. I can't believe how much I love me," Kira finished, leaning close, lips grazing Lexi's ear. "I know. And I feel the same." Then came a subtle movement in the street below. Lexi's eyes widened, tense. But Kira's hand tightened on hers. "Relax. Watch." Within minutes, Lexi saw Kira's rivals arrive in their black SUVs, unaware that the entire city block had just been mapped, guarded, and neutralized. One glance from Kira's security, one command, and the intruders were swiftly redirected, blocked, or discreetly removed. Lexi's jaw dropped. I don't even know how to feel safe." Kira smiled, tracing a finger along Lexi's collarbone. "You don't need to know. You just need to trust me. And you do, don't you?" Lexi nodded, chest tight. "Yes, I do. Completely." Kira leaned in, pressing her lips to Lexi's temple, then whispering, "Good. Because you're not just in my world anymore. You're mine, and I'll burn anyone who tries to take you away." The night closed around them, the city glowing below, danger neutralized, and Lexi finally understanding that love in Kira's world was fierce, protective, and absolute, and that she had no desire to ever leave it. Chapter 31. The Dance of Power. The office lights hummed late into the night, casting long shadows across the sleek tech lab. Lexi sat at her workstation, fingers flying across the keyboard, mind fully immersed in the prototype demonstration she was preparing. For once, she wasn't thinking about deadlines, investors, or presentations. She was thinking about Kira, about the protective warmth, the fire, the impossible allure of the woman who had claimed her heart and her world. Kira leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, watching silently. "You really do get lost in this, don't you?" she murmured, a half-smile tugging at her lips. Lexi didn't look up. "I have to. Every detail matters. If I miss something, it could cost someone," Kira finished softly, walking closer. Her presence alone made Lexi's chest flutter, her pulse quicken. "Or it could just impress me. And you? You're always impressing me." Lexi finally looked up, cheeks warming. "I'm not trying to." "You don't have to try, Alexiere." Kira stepped closer, hand brushing against Lexi's as she reached for a tool. That accidental touch, electric and intentional, sent shivers down Lexi's spine. "You just are. And it's infuriating." Lexi's breath caught. "Infuriating." Kira's lips curved in that impossibly confident, teasing smirk Lexi couldn't resist. "Yes, because no one should have this much control over me, except maybe you." The tension in the room thickened, charged with both desire and the weight of their realities. Lexi tried to refocus on the demonstration, but every brush of Kira's hand, every step closer, made it impossible. Minutes later, the prototype whirred to life, screens lighting up with flawless results. Lexi's eyes sparkled with triumph, and then she felt it, Kira's hand resting on her shoulder, warm, grounding, and claiming. "You did it," Kira murmured, voice low, almost intimate. "And you're mine. Do you feel that, even here, even in this room full of circuits and code?" Lexi nodded, heart hammering. "Yes, I feel it." Kira leaned down, brushing a kiss against Lexi's temple, lingering enough to make Lexi shiver. "Good. Because nothing rivals, business, or threats will ever change that. You're in my world, Alexiere. And now you're dancing in it." Lexi laughed softly, the sound bubbling up despite the tension. "Dancing in your world? I think I might be falling." Kira's eyes softened, the teasing replaced with something tender, dangerous, and infinite all at once. "I've already claimed your heart, Alexiere. Now it's time you claim mine. And maybe, just maybe, learn to enjoy the danger." Lexi's lips curved into a daring smile, leaning into Kira's presence. "I think I can manage that. Especially with a teacher like you." Kira's laugh was low, intimate, and full of promise. "Good. Because tonight, it's just you and me. Tech, fire, and lessons in love." And as the night deepened, Lexi realized something profound. Kira's world wasn't something to fear anymore. It was a world to embrace, with her heart, her mind, and, most importantly, her desire. Chapter 32: Fire and Circuits. The city hummed with hidden life, unaware of the storm brewing in the shadows. Lexi's apartment was transformed into a command center. Multiple screens flickered with maps, codes, and surveillance feeds. For the first time, she wasn't just an observer. She was a player, standing in Kira's dangerous orbit with purpose. Kira stepped in, her presence filling the room, commanding and intoxicating. "You're serious," she murmured, eyes scanning the screens. "I like that." Lexi didn't look up, fingers dancing across the keyboard. "I need every feed, every angle. If they make a move tonight, we'll know before they even blink." Kira's lips curved in that half-teasing, half-dangerous smile Lexi had grown addicted to. She stepped closer, brushing a hand down Lexi's arm, sending sparks that weren't just electrical. "Impressive. But don't forget, I'm the one who taught them to fear me." Lexi paused, glancing at Kira, eyes alight with mischief and determination. "I don't want to replace fear. I want to enhance it." Kira arched a brow, intrigued. "Oh? And how do you propose doing that?" Lexi tapped a sequence, screens illuminating the city block outside. "Precision tracking. Pattern analysis. I know their cars, their routes, their likely rendezvous. When they move, we'll know. And Kira," she hesitated, heart hammering, "we can intercept them before they even realize we're watching." Kira's grin widened, approving and dangerous all at once. "I like this. My avenging angel, with circuits and code instead of knives." She leaned close, fingers grazing Lexi's waist, and whispered, and still unbearably sexy, Lexi shivered, but kept her focus. "Don't distract me," she muttered, though her lips curved with a playful smile. Minutes later, alerts flashed red. The rivals were on the move, attempting a bold intrusion near one of Kira's safe houses. Lexi's fingers flew, cameras swiveling, feeds switching, codes unlocking doors and cutting off escape routes. Every move was precise, surgical, and thrilling. Kira stood behind her, breath warm on Lexi's neck, whispering directions, their bodies brushing. "Yes, exactly. You see? This is how we do it together." Lexi's pulse raced, not just from the adrenaline, but from the closeness, the intimacy, and the undeniable magnetism. Together, she repeated, almost in awe. I've never felt so alive." Within moments, the rivals' intrusion was neutralized, their cars trapped, their communications cut, their plans thwarted. Lexi leaned back in her chair, breathless and exhilarated. Kira's hand found hers, fingers interlacing. "You were incredible," Kira murmured, thumb brushing over the back of Lexi's hand. "Not just clever, but fierce." Lexi's heart thudded. I could never have done this without you." Kira's smile deepened, and she leaned down to press a kiss to Lexi's temple, lingering, claiming, intoxicating. "No, Alexiere. Tonight, you did this. You stood in my world. And you were magnificent. You're mine, and I've never been more certain of it." Lexi looked up, eyes shining with admiration, desire, and love. I'm yours, Kira. Completely." And in that moment, with danger neutralized, systems glowing, and hearts racing, Lexi realized she wasn't just surviving Kira's world, she was thriving in it, at her side, unstoppable and unbreakable, and undeniably in love. Chapter 33: Fire and Foundations. Morning sunlight spilled across the sleek conference room, reflecting off polished surfaces and illuminating the energy of creation. Lexi stood at the head of the table, tablet in hand, presenting the latest expansion plan to a room full of eager investors. Kira leaned casually against the wall, arms crossed, watching her with that impossible, teasing grin. "Look at you," she murmured, voice low enough only Lexi could hear. "Commanding the room, making them all fall in line. My genius, in public." Lexi's cheeks warmed, though her eyes never left the presentation. "Focus, princess. They're here for facts and figures, not commentary." Kira stepped closer, brushing her hand along Lexi's lower back as she passed. The touch was brief, but electric, sending heat racing through Lexi's veins. "Facts and figures are my favorite, especially when they come with a side of fire," Kira whispered, lips almost grazing Lexi's ear. Lexi swallowed hard, fighting the flutter in her chest. "You're impossible," she muttered, fingers flying over her tablet as she executed the next slide with precision. The investors nodded, impressed. Lexi's projections were flawless, her confidence undeniable. And Kira's subtle influence, the quiet power behind the scenes, was impossible to ignore. Together, they were unstoppable. After the meeting, Lexi and Kira slipped away to Kira's penthouse. The city below sparkled like a sea of stars, but inside, the air sizzled with intimacy and unspoken desire. "You were magnificent today," Kira murmured, pulling Lexi into her arms. "Not just in the boardroom, in every way." Lexi tilted her head, lips brushing Kira's as she whispered, "You make it impossible to be professional around you." Kira's laugh was low and sultry. "Good. Because I want you in every way, Alexiere. Professional, personal, my world is yours to command, if you want it." Lexi's pulse quickened. "I do," she breathed, pressing closer. "I want it all, with you." Their kisses deepened, soft at first, then demanding, filled with all the passion they'd been holding back. Clothes became irrelevant, their bodies pressed together, each touch and caress affirming a love that had survived danger, rivals, and every barrier. Later, curled together on the sofa, Lexi rested her head on Kira's chest, listening to the steady heartbeat that had become her anchor. "I know your world is dangerous," she murmured. "But I also know I can stand beside you. I can protect what we've built, and you'll protect me." Kira's lips brushed Lexi's hair. Always. You're fierce, brilliant, and entirely mine. And together, Alexiere, there's nothing we can't face. Business, danger, passion, it's all ours. Lexi smiled softly, heartful, and whispered, then let's build it. Together. Every part of it. Life, love, everything. And in that quiet, stolen moment, with the city glittering below and the world outside waiting, they both knew it. They were unstoppable, untouchable, and entirely in love. Chapter 34. Home in Her Arms. Lexi stirred coffee in the kitchen, early morning sunlight catching her curls as she scrolled through investor emails on her tablet. Kira padded in, barefoot, hair tousled, carrying a stack of folders and a mischievous grin. Already working? Kira teased, leaning against the counter, letting her fingers brush Lexi's arm. The contact was electric, familiar, intimate. I thought we agreed you'd sleep in today. I need to, Lexi murmured, eyes glued to the screen. Some of these expansion projections need immediate attention. Kira sighed dramatically, dropping the folders onto the counter with a soft thud. You, my brilliant, stubborn genius, will give me a heart attack one day. Her lips brushed Lexi's temple as she whispered, and yet. I love every second of it. Lexi laughed softly, finally looking up. I love every second of you, princess. Even when you distract me. Good, Kira purred, stepping closer, hand brushing against Lexi's as they reached for the same tablet. Because I intend to distract you a lot more, starting with this. And with that, Kira leaned in, capturing Lexi's lips in a slow, lingering kiss that sent shivers down her spine. The rest of the morning passed in a beautiful blur of business and intimacy. Lexi analyzed spreadsheets, Kira added her strategic input, and every so often, their hands would brush, their gazes would lock, and a stolen kiss would interrupt their calculations. Later, Kira sprawled on the sofa, legs draped over Lexi's lap as Lexi adjusted slides for a late-night investor pitch. You know, Kira murmured, tracing circles on Lexi's wrist, we could save ourselves some trouble if you just moved in with me. Lexi froze mid-slide, heart skipping. Moved in. Kira's grin was impossibly sexy, dangerously confident. Yes. No more late nights trudging back and forth. No more me sneaking into your apartment just to check on you. We're already a team, Alexiere, in business, in life, in everything. Why not officially? Lexi looked at her, playful defiance in her eyes, but the warmth in her chest betrayed her resistance. I'm not sure if I can just dive in like that. You don't have to jump, Kira whispered, leaning closer, lips brushing Lexi's ear. Just take my hand and see where it leads. I'll catch you. Always. The room was quiet, save for the soft hum of electronics and their mingled breaths. Lexi's fingers grazed Kira's, and slowly, she nodded, a smile tugging at her lips. Maybe I can try. Kira's laugh was soft, victorious, and full of love. Good. Because life is better when we're side by side, business, danger, passion, everything. That night, as they curled together in Kira's penthouse, Lexi felt an unshakable sense of belonging. She could stand in her own right, thrive in her company, and still fall into Kira's arms safe, loved, and fiercely desired. And in the quiet glow of the city lights, Lexi realized this was home. Not just the penthouse, not just the city, but in Kira's arms, in their life together, fearless and unstoppable. Chapter 35. Family Interrogation. The penthouse smelled of fresh flowers and coffee as Lexi's mother, Helen, swept in like a force of nature. She eyed every corner, every detail, before finally landing on the two women lounging in the living room. Well, Helen said, arms crossed, eyes sharp, a smile tugging at her lips. So, this is the famous Kira. The one who's turned my shy, brilliant Lexi into, what exactly? Lexi's cheeks flamed red, and she ducked slightly behind her laptop, fingers fiddling with the edge. Mom, please. Kira, relaxed as ever, leaned back, legs crossed, one hand draped casually over Lexi's. I'm just trying to keep her safe and happy, she said smoothly, voice low, almost teasing. Helen's eyes narrowed, but the smile never left her face. Safe and happy, huh? That's what you call this whirlwind? Protecting my daughter by making her blush every 5 seconds. She tilted her head, studying Kira like a general sizing up an opponent. And tell me, Kira, when exactly do you plan to make an honest woman out of her? Lexi choked on her tea, eyes wide, hands clutching her laptop. Mom, she whispered, fiercely mortified. Kira's lips curved in a slow, mischievous smile. She reached out, brushing a strand of hair from Lexi's face. Helen, I assure you, when the time is right, she'll be mine in every sense. And she knows it. Helen's gaze softened slightly, but her teasing didn't waver. You're clever, I'll give you that. But don't think I won't interrogate you every chance I get. My Lexi, she deserves the world, and I'll make sure you're up to the task. Lexi hid her face in her hands, groaning. Mom, stop. You're going to scare her off. Kira chuckled, leaning closer to Lexi, lips brushing the top of her head. Scared? Never. Helen, you're just going to have to accept that she's already stolen my heart, and I'm not giving it back. Helen raised an eyebrow, arms crossed again, pretending to consider. We'll see. But I'll be watching and questioning. Every step of the way. Lexi peeked through her fingers, finally letting a small laugh escape. Mom, you're impossible. Impossible? Helen repeated, feigning offense. Darling, I'm thorough. And I want to know, you're happy, Lexi. That's all that matters. Kira wrapped an arm around Lexi's shoulders, pulling her close. Happy, more than she's ever been. And I promise, Helen, I'll take care of her. Always. Helen softened, finally sitting down beside them, her hands clasped over Lexi's. Good. Because if you ever hurt her, her tone was playful but carried an edge of steel. You'll have me to answer to. Lexi buried her face in Kira's chest, laughing quietly, heartful. I think I'm safe, Mom. I think I'm very safe. Kira kissed the top of her head, whispering, safe, loved, and fiercely protected. That's how it's always going to be. And in that moment, with Lexi blushing, her mother watching closely, and Kira holding her close, life felt full, chaotic, and entirely there's love, family, and passion all intertwined in the penthouse that now truly felt like home. Chapter 36. New home, new promises. Boxes were stacked in neat little towers around the penthouse, some labeled tech stuff, others books, and a few that just said, ominously miscellaneous. Lexi knelt on the floor, carefully unpacking her life into Kira's world, her apartment now fully absorbed into the penthouse that had already become theirs. Kira watched from the doorway, arms crossed, a grin playing on her lips. You've taken over my space faster than I anticipated, she teased, stepping closer, her heels clicking softly on the polished floors. Lexi looked up, cheeks flushed. Well, I like a place that's organized. And yours is perfect. Perfect. Kira arched an eyebrow. I've lived here for years, and suddenly it's perfect because you're in it? She dropped onto the floor beside Lexi, knees brushing hers, hands brushing as she lifted a box. Maybe I should let you unpack everything. I like watching you work. Lexi's pulse quickened at the closeness. You really are impossible, she muttered, stacking another row of books on the shelf. Kira's hand found hers as they reached for the same box, fingers interlacing for a brief moment. Sparks. Always sparks. Lexi's breath hitched slightly, and Kira's grin widened, leaning closer. See? Even moving in, you're distracting me. I could get used to this. Hours passed in a blend of laughter, teasing banter, and comfortable closeness. Lexi's tech equipment had its corner, her personal books and papers found their home, and little pieces of her personality began to fill Kira's space, and Kira made room for every inch of it. As Lexi finally leaned back against a stack of boxes, wiping her hands on a towel, Kira reached into a small velvet pouch she'd been hiding behind her back. Kneeling beside Lexi, she tilted her head, eyes glinting with mischief and affection. What's that? Lexi asked, curiosity piqued, though her heartbeat quickened. Kira pulled the velvet pouch forward, revealing a delicate ring. Thought I might make this place officially ours, she murmured, voice low, teasing yet tender. Lexi blinked, lips parting slightly. Kira, you can't just. I mean, her words faltered as Kira's hand brushed hers, sliding the ring onto her finger with a gentle, playful tug. There, Kira whispered, letting her fingers linger. A promise. A reminder. That no matter where you unpack, no matter how messy things get, you're mine. And I'm yours. Lexi's heart swelled, eyes glistening. Yours, she breathed, voice trembling with joy. Kira smiled, brushing a strand of hair from Lexi's face, leaning close enough that their foreheads touched. Always. In every box, every corner, every moment. Always. And in that quiet, laughter-filled, love-filled penthouse, surrounded by boxes and the beginnings of their shared life, Lexi finally felt the full weight and warmth of home, wrapped around her in Kira's arms, and the promise of all their tomorrows together. Chapter 37. Triumph and Teasing. The boardroom was tense, the air humming with anticipation. Lexi's latest tech demonstration projected onto the massive screen, her algorithms controlling security measures, real-time market analysis, and even subtle defenses against digital intrusion. Rivals had tried to infiltrate her company, disrupt her systems, even plant false investors. But Lexi's tech, combined with Kira's ruthless intelligence and reach, had turned the tables spectacularly. Miles Jonas, always impressed, leaned back in his chair. I've never seen anything like this, Lexi. You've completely neutralized their efforts before they even began. Lexi allowed herself a small, satisfied smile. It's all in the design. Nothing gets past me. Kira, leaning against the wall with that familiar confident grin, crossed her arms. Nothing gets past us, Alexiere. And if anyone thought otherwise, she let her voice drop low, just loud enough for the room to hear. They quickly learned the hard way. A subtle, controlled message had already gone out through Kira's channels. Lexi was off limits. Any rival attempting to touch her or her tech would face consequences swift and decisive. And everyone in the room understood exactly what that meant. After the final demonstration, investors and colleagues applauded, awed by Lexi's brilliance. Lexi, cheeks flushed and adrenaline still coursing, walked past Kira, brushing her hand lightly against hers. Kira's eyes followed her every move, a smirk tugging at the corners of her lips. You're enjoying this, aren't you? She teased softly. Lexi stopped, turning to face her, a playful glint in her eyes. Enjoying what? She asked innocently. This, Kira said, gesturing broadly to the impressed crowd, the defeated rivals, the unshakable success of Lexi's tech. You, being brilliant, untouchable, and me having the pleasure of standing right next to you while they all realize who you belong to. Lexi tilted her head, a mischievous smile forming. I have to ask, Princess, were you interested in me because of the tech? You know, to defeat your rivals more efficiently? Kira laughed, that low, rich sound that always made Lexi's knees go weak. Maybe a little, she admitted, stepping closer, letting her hand brush Lexi's again. But mostly, it's because of you. Smart, stubborn, fierce, untouchable, and utterly irresistible. Lexi felt her cheeks warm, heart racing, but she let herself lean into Kira's presence, savoring the playful intimacy of it. Good, she said softly, voice teasing. Because if it's just the tech, I might feel a little used. Kira's grin widened, eyes sparkling with mischief and affection. Oh, trust me, Alexiere, it's always been about you. The tech just makes you even more dangerous and irresistible. They stood together, hands brushing, hearts racing, the room around them buzzing with triumph. In that moment, Lexi realized she could stand in her own right, wield her genius like a weapon, and still be utterly, completely claimed by the woman she loved. And Kira. Kira would always make sure that no one, no rival, no threat, and certainly no one without their permission, could ever touch her. Lexi laughed softly, resting her head against Kira's shoulder. Well, I guess being irresistible has its perks. Kira pressed a soft kiss to the top of her head. The best perks, Alexiere. The absolute best. Chapter 38. Always ours. The penthouse hummed with quiet life. Morning sunlight spilled across the polished floors, catching in the metallic edges of Lexi's tech setup, the books she had lovingly arranged, and the little touches of Kira's world now mingling with hers. Kira sat on the edge of the sofa, a steaming cup of coffee in her hand, watching Lexi move through the space with the ease of someone finally at home. "You've taken over," Kira said softly, voice tinged with amusement and pride. Lexi looked up, cheeks flushed, smiling. "I'm making this ours, princess." "Always ours," Kira corrected, leaning closer, brushing a stray curl from Lexi's face. Her eyes glimmered with affection, mischief, and that unshakable promise of protection. They had built more than a life together. Lexi's tech company now thrived in markets they had once only dreamed of, with Kira quietly but decisively ensuring rivals stayed exactly where they belonged, out of reach. Even in the midst of the business empire, their moments of intimacy had multiplied. Morning breakfasts turned into lingering touches. Late-night work sessions ended with whispered laughter and stolen kisses. And every glance carried the unspoken promise they were each other's anchor, shield, and fire. Lexi paused near the large window, looking out over the city skyline. "You know, it's still surreal," she said quietly. "All of this. Us. How did I get so lucky?" Kira stepped behind her, wrapping her arms around Lexi's waist, chin resting lightly on her shoulder. "Luck had nothing to do with it," she murmured. "You're brilliant, unstoppable, and I'd choose you every time, in every world." "And the tech." She pressed a soft kiss to Lexi's temple. "That just made it inevitable." Lexi laughed, a light, carefree sound, turning in Kira's arms to face her. "So, you're saying it's me you wanted all along?" "Every second," Alexia, Kira said, voice low, teasing, and intimate. "And I'll keep showing you, in every glance, every touch, every plan, that nothing, no rival, no danger, no one can change that." Lexi felt a swell of love, desire, and security. She reached for Kira's hand, lacing their fingers together, hearts sinking in a quiet rhythm of belonging. "Then let's keep building this, everything, together." Kira grinned, playful and wickedly proud. "Together. And just so we're clear, I'll always be the one keeping everyone else in line." Lexi laughed, pressing a soft kiss to Kira's jaw. "Good. Someone has to." And so, their life continued, a blend of passion, business, danger, and love, each day more intertwined than the last. Rivals still lurked in shadows, opportunities rose and fell, but nothing could touch them, nothing could come between what they had built, a life together, a home together, and a love unapologetically, fiercely, and entirely theirs. In the quiet of their shared penthouse, with laughter, whispers, and touches that spoke louder than words, Lexi and Kira finally knew they were unstoppable. Always. Epilogue: The wedding of the century. The ballroom glittered with soft golden light, chandeliers casting delicate patterns across the polished floors. Guests whispered and craned their necks, knowing this was not just a wedding, it was the union of two unstoppable forces. Lexi stood at the end of the aisle, her crimson curls pinned back, the rest cascading softly over a flowing white gown that shimmered as she moved. Her hands trembled slightly, heart racing, not from nerves of the crowd, but from the woman waiting for her at the altar. Kira, Princess Kallstrom, stood bold and commanding, yet breathtaking, in a cream gown tailored perfectly to her figure, her piercing blue eyes scanning the room briefly before locking on Lexi. Even in this serene, ceremonial moment, she radiated power, danger, and devotion. As Lexi walked toward her, their eyes met, and the world narrowed. The room, the whispers, the flash of cameras all disappeared. It was just them, as it had always been. Kira's voice, low and rich, echoed across the aisle. "Alexia, from the moment I saved you, from the moment I claimed you in every way, I knew you were mine. And I've never let go. Today, I vow again, in front of the world, to be your shield, your fire, your home, your everything." Lexi's voice shook, soft but unwavering. "Kira, from the moment you appeared in my life, I've been resisting, doubting, afraid. But now I see it all clearly, the danger, the passion, the love. You've given me strength, protection, and a world I never imagined. I vow to stand with you, fight beside you, and love you fiercely, for the rest of our lives." The officiant smiled, and as they exchanged rings, delicate yet symbolic, Kira took Lexi's hands in hers, holding them gently but firmly. "You are mine. Always. And I am yours. In every battle, every triumph, every quiet moment we share, we are unstoppable together." Lexi's eyes glistened with tears, and a playful smirk touched her lips. "And you'll never let anyone forget it, right?" Kira chuckled, leaning in to press a kiss to Lexi's forehead. "Never," she promised, voice low and private, meant only for her. The kiss that followed as they were pronounced partners for life was electric, soft, passionate, and enduring, a perfect balance of fire and tenderness. Around them, the guests erupted in cheers, but Lexi and Kira barely noticed. Their world had shrunk once more to just each other, the pulse of their love, and the infinite future ahead. Later, the celebration behind them, Lexi and Kira retreated to their honeymoon suite. The city lights stretched endlessly beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting a soft glow across the room. Lexi paused at the doorway, her flowing white gown now set aside, hair slightly tousled, cheeks flushed from the excitement and emotions of the day. Kira's eyes devoured her, the intensity behind them both possessive and tender. "You look irresistible," Kira murmured, closing the distance with slow, deliberate steps. Lexi's lips curved into a shy, teasing smile. "I thought you said that before?" "Never enough," Kira countered, brushing her fingers over Lexi's jawline, letting her hand trail down her neck, across her shoulder. "Never enough to show you exactly how much you belong to me." Lexi's breath hitched, her fingers instinctively finding Kira's hands, holding them, feeling the strength and heat behind every touch. I'm yours," she whispered, voice trembling between want and surrender. "Always," Kira said, pressing her lips to Lexi's forehead, then the side of her neck, leaving a trail of fire in every soft, lingering kiss. Their hands roamed, exploring the familiarity and newness of each other, clothes falling away in slow, deliberate motions. The room seemed to pulse with their shared heat, the outside world fading completely. Kira's touch was everywhere, possessive, playful, yet tender, as Lexi melted into her arms, heart racing, breath catching with every whisper and kiss. The way Kira claimed her, even gently, left Lexi trembling with desire and longing, finally letting herself fully succumb to the woman who had captured her body, mind, and heart. They moved together, perfectly synchronized, the intensity building, teasing, and testing boundaries. Every kiss, every caress, every whispered word deepened their connection, their love a tangible, burning thing between them. When they finally collapsed together, entangled, hearts pounding in unison, Lexi rested her head on Kira's chest, listening to the steady, reassuring beat. We really are unstoppable," she murmured, voice soft and content. Kira tightened her hold, brushing hair from Lexi's face. "Not just in business, not just in life," she whispered, lips brushing Lexi's temple. "Here. Now. Forever. You and me, Alexiere. Always." Lexi smiled, closing her eyes, finally at peace, body, mind, and heart surrendered fully to the woman she loved, the life they had built together, and the passion that would forever burn between them. And in that moment, they knew it, life would throw everything at them, but with each other, they were invincible, unstoppable, and endlessly in love. Thank you so much for listening. Please subscribe and like this video and follow me for more stories. You are always welcome here, and leave me a comment or a thumbs up, just letting me know if you like the story and would like more, or is there perhaps an idea that you would like to share or let me write for you.